3, 2, 1. Boom. What's up, brother? How
What's
are
up,
you?
bro?
Good to see you, my friend. Always.
Thanks for having
me. It's been a while,
me.
man.
Yeah. We've both been busy. It's crazy.
And in the meantime, weed became legal.
Yes.
You guys were at the forefront, man. You guys were way ahead. You were ahead of everybody.
You know, we took a shot. We took a shot, you know, as stoners and advocates and whatnot. You know, we were stoners at first, right? You know, that's how you start. Like, you know,
Right.
your friend says, hey, man, try this. Or you're the one who says, try this, right? It's one or the other. And, you know, eventually you start getting into the High Times magazines and stuff like that and looking at the, you know, the centerfold pictures of the weed, but also we like
pictures of weed.
we like to read too occasionally. So, you know, we'd get into some of the activism aspect of it as well. And that's when we heard names like Jack Herrera, who pretty much opened our eyes to everything. And then, you know, I think we became real advocates. You know, at first, you know, we thought we were, you know, sort of. We read the High Times magazines and we were stoners, so we thought we were advocates. But like in reading what other freedom fighters were actually doing out there and protests and rallies and all that stuff, you know, we really weren't advocates like we thought. We became that later for sure.
Yeah, Jack was way, way, way ahead of the curve. He's such an interesting story, rest in peace, because he was a Goldwater Republican. You know, he was just a button-down, old-school Republican.
Yeah.
And then he got a girlfriend. And then his girlfriend got him smoking weed.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's like, man, this is fucking amazing. God, why am I such a dick? What's wrong with me? Who am I? What am I doing with my life?
Absolutely. It totally flipped his life around.
Yeah. The Emperor Wears No Clothes is a fucking great book, man.
Yeah, it holds strong to this day because everything that he said in the book is sort of happening right now. All the stuff that they tried to prevent from happening through all the anti-cannabis propaganda.
Yeah.
You see it now. And now you see those very companies trying to get into the industry.
Yeah, they were always on the outside like, waiting. You know, there was like at the launching block. Not quite ready to run, but any minute now it's going to get legal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, they're lying in wait with fields like acreage that no one can ever come close to.
Probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I heard maybe like 5 years ago before it was legal in Denver, or it was a bit longer than that, before we got legalization here, that, you know, companies like Philip Morris and you know, companies like that were already buying land and already trademarking names, you know, for some of the cannabis that we know today, so that when they come into the game, you know, they have ownership on some of the names and some of the brands and trademarks and stuff like that to that. And obviously the acreage to, you know, grow vast sums of cannabis.
Yeah.
You know, who knows how true that is, but I don't doubt some of that.
I don't doubt it either. The sneakiest shit was Ohio. They were trying to make it legal, but if they were going to make it legal, there was only it was like 2 companies that were out. Jamie's from Ohio.
I think like 4, but I think that is how it went through.
Yeah.
They were the only ones going to be allowed to grow it and sell it. Like, fuck you.
Monopoly.
That is not legal weed. That is you being a cunt.
That's monopoly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know, because, you know, you had like people that got those licenses or permits or whatever that had no knowledge on the cannabis culture or business, how to cultivate and how to run retail stores or any of that. They didn't have any of that knowledge. And, you know, they'll usually give it to an insider because they know how much money they stand to make like that. That's like if there was just one distribution center, right? And everybody has to go through that distribution center. How much money does that distribution center make? Because you got to pay for your shit to go there. And then, you know, who knows if you know if it passes because you know as a cultivator what you did. So you'll know it'll pass because it's clean, but you still got to pay that fee every time and it's got to go through them. Fortunately, here in California, you know, they've allowed people to have distribution licenses so that there's not one distribution center because that would be a monopoly for sure. And that's what they wanted to supposedly, you know, the lobbyists that put 64 together were trying to stop it from being a monopoly. And corporations coming in and taking over and stuff like that.
So interesting because pot is such a non-corporate drug. It's such a non-corporate thing that these corporations were trying to get a grip on weed. It seemed obscene. It seemed disgusting.
Yeah, it's a little out of place.
A lot out of place, right?
Because you think about where it comes from, and it's been outlaw for so long. It's kind of like the way alcohol was for so long.
Way longer than alcohol,
but it's been demonized longer.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
And now, you have people trying to come in and throw money into it. And they got, and some of these guys don't realize it's not just about the money into it. You got to do the diligence on what this business is. You can't cut corners on the cultivation. You can't cut corners on quality because people, there's more information out there.
Yeah.
So people know. Even if they're not a connoisseur, as a consumer, they can read about shit. They can learn about stuff. So if you're getting over on them, or if you're putting some shit quality product out there, I mean, people are going to know. And all that money that these guys put into trying to get into the cannabis business, they're just throwing it into the fire.
Yeah.
Some of them will come out of it. They'll partner up with brands that exist and people that have knowledge. But, it's the corporations that come in the next 5 years. It's going to be interesting because I do think that it's set up for them to come in. The taxes are so high right now for the consumer and for the cultivator and for the retail shop that you got to survive this wash right now that's happening in order to still be, doing business when the corporate structure comes in. Because please believe they're going to lobby so that those taxes come down because the margins are not right, as 40% taxes.
Is that what it is now? It was 39 in Denver, right?
Yeah, but here in California, it's 40%.
But to the consumer's like, who gives a fuck? If I could just pull in and get some weed real quick.
They should give a fuck.
They should, but in comparison to alcohol, like how much it costs if you go out for a night for some drinks, it costs way more. You get high for a month on what it takes to get
pretty much
a few drinks in a night.
Depending where you go, those fucking drinks are even double.
Yeah.
And with less alcohol.
Well, the other thing is that these companies, they don't understand the culture. It's a different culture. You can't bullshit us. You can't bullshit us with marketing and advertising. That shit is not going to work. You can't have like the most interesting man in the world selling weed. Stay thirsty, my friends.
No, that ain't going to work. You got to get somebody like Michael Phelps.
Yes. Yeah, man.
Michael Phelps,
for
man.
Real.
I would buy weed from Michael Phelps.
How funny was that he got in trouble for that?
What I find it funny is how they put these stereotypes on stoners for so long, like that we're lazy, unproductive, and all that stuff. This guy's one of the most decorated Olympians in the history. You know what I mean? What has he got? Like 15 gold fucking medals?
Something preposterous.
Yeah, Mr. Big Lungs. That's what we call him. Mr. Big Lungs.
That guy probably could take a rip on a bong.
Think about it.
Oh my God.
I mean, shit.
Right? He had probably his crazy capacity. There it is.
Probably snap a 2-gram bowl, this guy.
Who was the person who ratted him out?
Some kid.
Some kid?
Some
dirtbag.
Little dickhead.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Imagine just going to a party, trying to have a good time. Some kid's there with his phone.
That's social network for you, though. They want to go viral, so they'll get you in that moment where, you're supposed to be a friend.
But that was like before a lot of that shit was happening. Like, what year was that? Let's guess. What year was that? 2012?
Well, before, let's just say before, Instagram kicked off. But there was still YouTube and Twitter.
Yeah.
If you wanted to put somebody on blast or you wanted to have a viral video, YouTube has been there for a long time.
Yeah, Twitter was like 2007, right? Wasn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. I think when was Michael Phelps? When did he get in trouble?
I'm looking. I'm seeing different stuff. So I saw a picture of it on YouTube from 2009. So that means it would have been in 2008 Olympics. But that
makes sense.
Like it was a long time ago.
Yeah, that makes sense though, because then he came back, right?
Yeah.
He retired and then he came back.
Well, I think he was suspended. I think he was suspended.
Yeah, 2009 is when he got caught.
And then he had to, do the suspension, and he came back and got some more medals. It's like, haha, fuck you, right? I love that.
Was he suspended because of the weed?
Yeah. Oh. Well, hey, listen, in a lot of places, it's still on a banned substance list.
Oh yeah, Texas is real bad. February 2009. He was only 23. Apologized for an incident where he was caught on camera at a party smoking a bong that was allegedly marijuana.
He shouldn't have apologized for that. He shouldn't have had to have apologized for that.
Thing is that they have those guys bent over a box because they're all just trying to get that sponsorship money.
Right.
You have to be squeaky clean if you want to be on the Wheaties box.
Yeah, if you're an Olympian.
Yeah. They're not going to put Cypress Hill on the Wheaties box just yet.
Wouldn't that be great, though? But take the TH out and add an E and put a D and IES at the end. Let's go. Wheaties.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You guys were so far ahead of the curve, though. I mean, you had weed songs. Like when? Like what year?
That was the first album was in 91.
Yeah.
And we started writing for that album probably 4 years prior.
Wow.
And, the weed songs, those came about because we were weed heads. We just, fuck it, let's be ourselves, right?
It's a different thing, though, for people that were fans. Because when I was listening to you, I was just getting ready to move from Boston to New York. And back then, you would hear about new hip hop bands from like friends.
Yeah.
Like you did there
was
no
word of mouth. Yeah,
man.
For sure.
I would hear about it. Like somebody that I think somebody I worked out with had it, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And they're like, that's Cypress Hill. I was like, damn.
Yeah, we were trying to be different, not sound like a typical West Coast, group.
Right.
Because a lot of West Coast groups at that point, what the labels were looking for were NWA types and, things like that, like either, gangster, West Coast gangster rap. They were looking for that, or either the Kid Frost Chicano type.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to foothold ourselves like that. Muggs being from New York, he wanted to sort of blend both worlds, right? So, we went with the East Coast type sound with LA, type of slang mixed with East Coast slang. And so people, they were like, where the fuck are these guys from? And people thought we were from Cypress Hill, New York, because there's a Cypress Hill down there. And, people just didn't really know at first because we were one of the first groups that didn't put our images on any of our first, any of our singles or our art covers. We never did like the shots like, that were existing at that time where it's a clean shot of the group or the artist or whatever. We were always on some, because we were metalheads too, before the hip hop, we liked the obscure metal albums. So we were like, we're not going to put ourselves on the covers. We're just going to do these crazy obscure covers and make people, try to guess who we are, be mysterious.
Damn, we talk about longevity. I mean, you guys have been around a long fucking time and you've never dropped off at all.
It's crazy, we didn't expect it. We didn't know how long our run would be. We just kept working, we always had a strong work ethic. We were never the types just to sit around. We were always doing something, Muggs is always making beats. I'm always writing to something. I'm always into one project or another. So it was always just about keeping busy and that suited us well.
It's crazy. 28 years later, still banging it.
It's crazy when you say it. 28 years.
28 years later from your first album, man. And, and again, you guys never dropped off for a second. Not once. You were always there.
You have to be consistent in hip hop, in music in general, especially like if there's a time where radio stops playing your music or, as MTV stopped playing music videos and they went for more reality show type programming, you got to stick out there. So for us, it was, constantly doing shows. We didn't put out as many albums as we could have, but we thought less was more, instead of like driving the music into your heart like a steak or something like that. We'd just, let everything breathe for a while. And there was a time where, we sort of let go of doing everything. It was like a 6-year period where we just kind of took off. We weren't away completely. We're still doing like sporadic shows here and there to keep up the profile, but we weren't like touring and working on music. I was off fucking around competing in paintball tournaments and crap.
Wait,
like
really?
that. Yeah.
You get into paintball?
Oh man, yeah. I had a team called Stoned Assassins, and and it was competitive paintball. At the time, I was training martial arts as I've done throughout my life, and I was also playing competitive paintball.
What kind of martial arts were you doing?
Shotokan. I started off with Taekwondo, and I got sort of. I mean, it's like it was the dojo was cool, and I was progressing quickly, but I sort of fell out with the master there with the Sifu or whatever. I can't remember what it is.
Nim.
Yeah. And one of my partners who I grew up with, who was one of my partners in our Dr. Green Thumb brand and whatever, his father was a sensei and his sensei and became my sensei. I went from Taekwondo to Shotokan, and I started training with him. I mean, he had been in the dojo since he was 5 years old, training with his father. So, I came into that. It took a little bit of convincing for me to go from one thing to another, because it's such a different style. But, I adapted to it and I liked it, and it was very different, less flash, but is very disciplined. And his father, he was, born in Japan, raised out there, and he their shit is kind of different. They go to martial arts universities, and they get degrees in different martial arts, so they can go and take like Hapkido and Jiu-Jitsu and Shotokan and all this, and get their degrees. They work their way up in the belt system and all that stuff, but they become teachers through that university, I guess.
That's fascinating.
And his father was one of the guys in one of the federations that he's one of the 3 or 4 senseis that have to come in and give you the black belt when you actually get it. Yeah, what was it? SKFA or something like. I got it.
Shotokan Karate Federation, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So you could imagine when Lyoto Machida came on the scene, we were like, someone representing the style that, we were training under anyway.
Yeah, a lot of people got excited when he came about. He was really the first guy to legitimize karate in the modern era of mixed martial arts. He showed, like, if you could do all those other things, if you could stuff takedowns and you knew submissions and all those things on top of that.
You could live.
Yeah, you could do it in a weird way that people didn't really understand his timing.
Yeah.
Wonder Boy Thompson's similar to that, too. It's got a weird timing.
Weird timing. It's and then the feints with the hips. He was good with that shit.
Yeah.
Like, he would throw people off with that. And, I just happened to go see his fight against Rashad Evans.
Oh, shit.
And, man, I mean, it surprised all of us. I mean, we thought he would win, but we didn't know he would win in that fashion. I mean...
Yeah, he was something special.
Yeah.
And he's over at Bellator now, right? With his brother. His brother Chinzo's been over there for a while. I think his brother's a bantamweight or featherweight, one of those. But I think it's good to go from Taekwondo to other styles, because Taekwondo gives you a lot of dexterity. You learn how to move your legs easily.
Yes, absolutely. It's a good foundation.
Yeah, it's a good way to start off. It's good for little kids too. For
sure.
That doesn't, there's not a lot of head contact or not as much.
The coordination too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you learn, if you really actually want to fight, you want to learn Muay Thai and all those other things. You have way quicker legs.
Yeah.
They just move better.
Yeah. For me, I was never good with all those flashy kicks like that. So,
You're a big dude.
Yeah, it was harder for me, Taekwondo. Like, the Shotokan was definitely hard, but it was more suited for someone my size.
It's a hard style. Shotokan's a hard style.
It is,
it's a good
man.
style.
And he when he was training us, he would not, like, let up. He'd, be real's here. Let me go light on him. Nah. Everything I did... like, that I did outside of music, when I tried, like, for instance, paintball. When it went into paintball, there was a price on my head every game. Everybody wanted to give me extra shots.
Of course.
So, like, if I got hit while I'm walking out, I would get 10, 20 extra paintballs to my back.
Oh.
And we'd give it right back to them. In the very next game, when we played them guys again, we were making sure to give them that right back. But,
so you got deep into this.
Oh, yeah, I was, man. It's addicting, man. I got to tell you, if there's any physical activity that is addicting, it is paintball, because it's chess with guns.
Yeah.
Because it's so fast and so close, and you got to think of a strategy. You know, it's not all shooting straight way. It's all shooting angles and getting your guys to positions to get those guys out, to keep moving up, to get their flag, wipe them out, and bring the flag back.
Now, are there restrictions on power, like the power of the guns?
Yeah. I believe you can't shoot above 300 psi. I think it's the highest you can shoot is maybe 285, 290, at least at the time.
Like if you go balls out, if you wanted to get the ultimate paintball gun, what is that?
Oh man, it's hard, because we were using different guns at the time, because it's like each year a better gun comes out. The technology gets better, so you know. We were using at first when we started these guns called Angels, and then we went over into these other guns. Fuck, I can't remember the name of them, but they were light. I mean, the best thing is to have a light gun with the trigger that you can fan, see, because that's the technique to get it to shoot like a Uzi, right? You're not supposed to be able to pull the trigger and multiple balls come out with one pull. It's supposed to be that the gun shoots as fast as your two fingers or three can toggle. So if you get a rhythm, you could shoot that thing like a fucking Uzi, you know. And everybody has a different position, you know. Like mine, I was like one of the quarterbacks, which is the last three on the line. See, it's like a football field, right? You got the 50, and there's obstacles at the 50 and in between, and it's mirrored on the other side. The quarterbacks play the back, and they shoot a whole bunch of paint so that the other guys that are the front and mid guys can get into these different positions to shoot the other guys out. So the guys in the back were shooting the most paint. So you have to use that fanning style.
So you're using 3 fingers?
3 fingers, because the trigger, where the base where you're pulling the trigger, you can fit 3 fingers there. Yeah, it's really for 2, but you could fit 3. Yeah, this was our team right here.
Stoned Assassins 07.
And we were always pretty stoned when we were playing.
Did that help?
Yeah. The furthest we went, we took 3rd place in one tournament.
Wow, you guys! So this is crazy. Like you guys have these barriers and shit.
Yeah, these are all blow-up barriers right here.
It looks like a football field.
Yeah, that's what they would replicate, like a football soccer field, and you know, you put all these obstacles up, these blow-up obstacles, and they're all just positions to try to take to get a better angle on the other side. And
what's the ultimate goal? To take everybody out?
It's you get points for taking the other side out, but you get the maximum points getting their flag and bringing it back to your side.
Oh.
And, you know, you get points for how many guys on your side that are still alive. So, you know, you would get 100% if all 7 of your guys were alive. You killed all of them and brought their flag back.
That ever happen?
Oh, yeah.
Damn, who are you playing?
You know,
like you guys crawling around and shit.
The thing about paintball, right, is that let's just say there's 6 tiers. Right, there's the pros, there's the semi-pros, there's the amateurs, there's the novice, there's the rookie, and each tier had at least 200 teams competing in this.
Wow.
Per tournament. And these guys, back in that time, I don't know how it is now because I haven't competed in a long time, but they would do 5 tournaments a year. One would be in Huntington Beach, the biggest one, and it was awesome. They would throw it, you know, right next to a surfing tournament. So, like, it would just be people crossing up, watching the surfers, and then coming watching the paintball. Then it would hit to, you know, Boston and Florida and Las Vegas and one other place I can't remember, but we would do these tournaments. I was doing them for like 4 or 5 years, and the guy before me that was the ambassador was one of the Bee Gees. One of the Bee Gees, the one who passed away first.
Barry Gibb? Was it Barry?
No, he's the one that always wore the hat.
Oh.
He was the shorter one.
So he was a paintball fiend?
He was a paintball fiend like myself. He owned a store. He had a team, I think it was based out of out of Miami, and he would compete up until when he passed away. He was like the ambassador, and
there he is.
Yeah. I came in and took his spot when
Maurice.
Maurice
Gibb. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys are armored the fuck up, huh? How fat? These things must sting.
Oh, man. I mean, I'd leave with at least 20 paintball bruises in one sitting, and you look like a leopard coming off after that. You know who else was a big paintball enthusiast was William Shatner.
Really?
Yeah, he would hold these crazy tournaments like in Trekkie style, where it's a scenario game, meaning that, okay, here's the castle. I'm going to be in the castle right here. You guys got to siege the castle, and if you guys can come get me out of here, you guys win this round. And they would, through the 3 days, they'd set up different scenarios. Like, there you go.
William Shatner playing paintball. This is crazy. I would have never guessed. But how does he run? He can't run.
Well, no,
he's like 80 years old.
He doesn't run. They put him in a central place, and he'll shoot. Sometimes he would go out there, but
so he would just stay put.
Yeah, he would stay put. You would have to protect him.
That's like old man paintball.
He would fight too. He would fight too, but he would. They would be trying to protect him.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's a bunch of celebrities that paintballed, man. Will Smith was paintballing before he did iRobot.
Really?
He did that. He came down to the park where we would practice at. We played with him and his team. But it was a scenario game. Joaquin Phoenix, Mekhi Phifer. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people.
Well, it looks like fun. I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
You let off steam.
Yeah. How many people are on a team?
On a competition team, you have 11 for the roster and 7 play at a time, and you can switch guys out. But now it's different. Now they do like 5-man and 3-man teams. I don't know anything about the new style, but they constantly call me back because I'm in better shape than I was when I played. I was a little bit heavier then. That's why I was at quarterback. I wasn't running too fast then, but they always hit me, man. I'll always get hit on my DM on IG or Twitter, like, "Hey, man, when you come back to the paintball field?" I'm like, when I get time, which is probably never, but
it seems like a big time suck.
Loved it, man. I loved playing the game. It was so addicting. It was hard to pull away from it. I would even at times be coming home from a tour straight into a tournament. Like, I'd get off the plane, I'd have somebody have my paintball shit ready, and boom, straight to the tournament. Can't tell you how many times I was doing that.
Really?
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
It's funny when things get in your blood, right? They get in your bones.
Yeah, that got in my blood like martial arts did, because I was always like an enthusiast, like, for a long time, and when I finally started training, I was training like 7 days a week, man. Wow. I wouldn't give myself any time off because I wanted to learn fast and I wanted to absorb it, Did
you ever fuck with jiu-jitsu?
No, I always wanted to, but I never did.
You're in good shape?
I thought about it, and
Come on down to 10th Planet, man. You fit right in.
I think I will. Like a lot of people have asked me and invited me because they know, I'm a UFC fan. I'm a mixed martial arts fan. I'm a boxing fan. All that shit. A couple of my cousins are. Well, one of them was a champion professional boxer, which was Michael Carbajal, and his nephew.
He was your cousin?
Yeah, that's my cousin.
Damn, I met I met him one day at the Comedy Store.
Yeah,
long time ago, man.
Yeah, when he was a champ, he was
a beast.
He was a beast, and his nephew is now boxing, Keenan Carbajal.
Oh, okay, cool.
So yeah, we're rooting for family right there. But
he's from Arizona, right?
Yeah, from AZ. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been invited to come fuck with some jiu-jitsu, and I think I will, because I mean you got to know it. I think it's something that would benefit anyone to know that.
Yeah.
So that you don't actually, get in a fight and have to hurt somebody bad, or they hurt you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Just choke them.
Just choke them out. I saw Everlast choke some guy out one night, man.
Really?
It was the fucking, because he fucks around a little bit. He knows people that teach jujitsu, and they've taught him a couple things. And we're at the Rainbow one night where we were holding court. Just smoking like it's Amsterdam down there, and we were having a conversation, and he kept hearing some dude across a couple tables over kept saying Everlast this, Everlast that, and he yo money, say my name one more time. And he goes, Everlast? And he went back to talking to his people because he didn't think Everlast was going to come up and do nothing. Everlast went and walked over to this table, looked to his face, turned him around real quick, and started choking him the fuck out. Say my name again, Muddy. Say it.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh man, it was hilarious. But yeah, man.
Well, 10th Planet is downtown, right near where your place is.
Yeah.
So your studio or your setup, that's real close to 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, man.
Just let me know. I'll set it up.
I will, man.
You got to avoid any flat Earth conversations that come up.
Oh,
Just plug your ears and keep moving.
I get those from time to time. You know, I get
People
the flat
need to
Earth.
stay the fuck off of YouTube, man.
Man, yeah,
They get confused.
yeah. That's the craziest shit.
Yeah.
Because I always argue like this about the flat Earth, right? So, hey, listen, if we got a flat Earth, there's an edge, right? And there's always thrill seekers looking to do something thrilling. And there's always a thrill seeker that fucks up and falls right off of that edge, right? So how many motherfuckers would be falling off the edge of the Earth if we really had one?
Oh, for sure.
You know?
There would be climbers. There'd be a bunch of dudes who would try to hang off the edge and take selfies.
Think about it, right? 12 people this year have died at the Grand Canyon. That's the Grand Canyon.
Is that really that many?
That many.
Damn.
So far in this year. And some people die of a heart attack there because, you know, it's too much for them to be on that little bridge that they have there that extends past the edge of a canyon. They put in a little bridgeway so that you can go and look down.
People have heart attacks doing
and
that?
people have had heart attacks from that. But the other guys are the ones trying to do selfies. Falling off the fucking bridge and plummeting, right? So you got to think, man, if we had a flat Earth, how many people would be visiting the edge and falling the fuck off taking a selfie, man? There's no, come on.
No doubt. There'd be teams of people.
Teams.
They would travel to flat Earth and they would like rope. Like Alex Honnold would probably try to climb off the side.
We'd hear it on the news. Another person has died from falling off the edge of the Earth.
Yeah. It would be 100%.
That'd be our 100th.
The flat Earth people would tell you, though, that the government guards that.
Yeah, in Antarctica, right?
Yeah, you can't go near it, bro.
Yeah.
It's battleships.
Well, there wouldn't be just one edge, though, right?
That's true. But they didn't think that through.
Yeah, no. There'd be several edges if we're flat.
Yeah, but see, you got to have that YouTube mentality. You got to put your head in a little box and leave it in there.
Yeah. Fucking turn the oven box on and stick your head in
The
it.
government's blocking the edge, man. You can't get near it.
Yeah, it's like we're living in a dome. You know, that's the
other
theory.
one. Yeah, the dome.
The dome theory.
Yeah, there's no space. Space is fake.
Fuck, man.
People smoke too much.
People want to believe in some crazy shit.
Yeah.
You know?
I wonder how much of them are stoners. Like most of them, right?
How many of them are microdosing?
Oh, could. Yeah, probably.
Because that's a thing now. Everybody's like fucking microdosing right now. And it's not bad for you. They say it's actually, kind of good for you. But
Ron White's doing it. Ron White microdoses psilocybin every day. He goes, I never felt better in my life.
And they like to talk when they're microdosing.
Yeah, especially psilocybin. You just have these ideas.
That's the thing. You have ideas and your mind becomes open to shit that normally, you're closed off to, obviously,
Yeah.
But,
I think they think that the Earth is a disc. I think that's what I've heard recently. They think it's a disc.
A disc.
Some sort of a floating disc. And then we live in the firmament or something like that. There's like some sort of a cover over the top of the disc. And that's what here it is. What is this, Jamie?
It's the cruise.
Huh?
The cruise next year that they're...
The Flat Earth Cruise?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Is that real?
Yeah.
Best adventure yet. They're going to get to the fucking glaciers and they're going to go, I told you, the wall.
The Flat Earth Cruise.
I hope they jump out and get eaten by polar bears.
That's the funniest shit.
It has to use like GPS to get around, so...
I mean...
Good luck with that.
How many scientists do they have on their side?
All of them.
That's the funniest shit.
No,
man.
it's fucking ridiculous. There's gigantic satellites that take huge, high resolution photos of the Earth every 10 seconds from orbit, from thousands of miles out.
Those are doctored.
Yeah, it's just the whole thing is so fucking stupid. Of all the shit to believe in, like to invest any energy in that, like why would someone lie about the shape of the Earth? That's the dumbest part about it.
You want to know what I think is before the internet and all these different platforms where you can get information, our government and other governments could debunk any information on UFOs, anything, because there wasn't like the wide communication that exists now, right? So I think now they put in people who are saying this crazy, wild, way out shit, so that people that are really trying to expose truth on certain things, they get looked at as whack jobs, like the rest of those that are trying to say, oh, well, flat Earth, or we're on a disc, or we're in a globe, or blah blah blah.
The government spying on you. They'll throw all that together. The government is spying on you.
Yeah, they are. That is for sure. I mean,
they really are.
That it's since George Bush Jr. was president, they've been listening to our phone calls. I mean, that's a fact. I mean, that was one of the things they enacted with the Homeland Security, that they can record every American's call, and whatever conversation mentioned certain keywords, as we were saying earlier, they would get shuffled off to a certain department, and those guys were red flagged and looked at, and that still happens today.
Still to this day, you don't need a warrant; they can just listen. I
mean, I'll tell you this, right? There was I've been traveling 20 some odd years at this point, where when I was coming back into the United States, for a long time I would not get randomly checked or anything like that. They just let us go by, and I made a few posts somewhere, with an abundant amount of cannabis, right? And right after that post, each time I came back into the United States, they sent me into secondary for a search. And I started asking, like, hey, I've been traveling for X amount of years now. I've noticed that the last 4 times that I've come back from another country, you guys are randomly, checking my bags now. What's the deal? Am I red flagged? What's going on with my passport? Well, I'm not really allowed to tell you this, but I mean, what kind of postings have you made on your social networks?
Really?
Yeah. And I said, okay, say no more. And I already knew what it was, because I had put a post with like 4, 5, 6 pounds in it.
What does 5 pounds of weed even look like?
It's lot.
So light. That's like giant pillows filled with weed.
Yeah. So, right then and there, I knew, from that reaction that he had, that anybody with any sort of that's involved in entertainment, music, athlete, whatever, actor, actress, they're watching all of our shit.
Oh, for sure.
They're listening and they're watching.
Well, especially someone like you who's been at the forefront of pushing cannabis legalization and always talked about it openly, flagrantly, even when it was a Schedule 1 substance.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere, Yeah. When did you get a medical card? What year?
The year that it was available. The first year it was available.
Was that like 95 or something? 94?
Yeah, I think I got mine from Dr. Eidelman. He was like one of the
Dr. Eidelman hooked me up too.
Yeah, all right. We're Eidelman brothers. All right. A lot of us are.
I used to go to him even when it was way more expensive, because I'm like, that guy's an OG.
Yeah. Hey, bro. He told me, he goes, my God. Because I lost track of him for a minute, and when I went back to get a renewal some years back, and he's, Lewis, you've been with me a long time. I mean, what it looks like is that you're patient number 4.
Whoa!
Number 4 on his first, because he keeps a list of all his patients, I guess, Yeah. And apparently I was number 4.
Yeah, even though there was doctors out here, I'd always go travel to see him in Hollywood, just out of respect.
Yeah.
And he always had these. He had like OG stoners in the waiting room.
Oh yeah,
just people that were just like barely holding on to reality.
Oh yeah, he had all sorts. He had the hippies. He had the new new gens, hip hop people. Like,
he had vitamin drips and shit too. All kinds of weird stuff in his office.
Yeah, he would try to sell you on some different technology anytime he can. This will help you stop smoking cigarettes. Well, I don't smoke cigarettes.
Oh yeah, he had like a thing that you put on your ear, like a little electrical thing.
Little electrode.
Yeah, they gave one to Red Band. It didn't work. Yeah.
You got to try something, right?
Yeah, it was like a battery powered thing, right? It'd give a little charge to your ear that somehow or another is supposed to stop you from smoking cigarettes. Like,
yeah, I didn't get it. I didn't smoke cigarettes, so I'm like, I don't smoke cigarettes.
Did you ever get your lungs checked out from all those years of weed smoking?
Yeah, I mean, I get physicals and stuff like that, and occasionally I'll have my lungs checked, and they tell me they're great.
Isn't that amazing?
It's crazy, because I think if you keep active, like you train and a lot of us train now. Like this generation, they're not like lazy stoners. They don't just sit back and do nothing. There still are those, but I don't think it has the same carcinogens as, people expected, like cigarette.
It doesn't.
And so, you might look at someone's lungs who smokes cigarettes and you might see something there like, hey, you need to, slow the fuck down over here. But in every time that I've had my lungs checked or whatever, whether I've, gotten sick or whatever, they're always telling me lungs are in good shape. And it's a funny thing because, I think in 1987, I was 17 and I was gangbanging. I got shot and, I got hit by a 22 and it, as hollow points do, it broke into three pieces, the hollow point. And one of them punctured my lung on my left side. And, they were telling me, do you smoke? No, I don't really smoke because I didn't smoke cigarettes. I smoked weed, but I wasn't going to divulge that at the time. I was 17 and, and they said, well, that's good because you'll never smoke again. I was like, they punctured your lung and blah, blah, blah. They thought I was going to have to work off one lung. But in the 3 days, they were able to get the blood out of the lung and I was able to get it back, through the exercises they told me, to get it back to its regular size. And I've never had a problem since then, knock on wood.
Did they take the piece of metal out?
No, I still got the 3 pieces. That's like when I go do my physicals and they do the
MRI,
the MRIs and the x-rays and all that. The doctors, sometimes they forget because they see so many patients. Mr. Freeze, these appear to be bullet fragments. What is that? Well, you just said it, Doc. They're bullet fragments. You've seen them a dozen times, and I was very lucky. I was very lucky because it, punctured my lung and then 2 of the pieces, one was by the heart and one was by my spine. But I was at Martin Luther King Hospital in Linwood, and we call that place Killer King because you go in there for something small and end up dying or come out, gimped out or something. So, I wasn't going to allow them to try and get to those bullets or those fragments.
To open you up?
Yeah, no. Because, they didn't have a great success rate.
What kind of lung exercise they give you? Try to pump your lungs back up.
They give you this breathing apparatus that has like a ball in it, right? And it has 2 lines. And, it's the first line they're telling you every day for 5 minutes to 10 minutes to blow that, not all in one shot, but like to keep practicing getting the ball up there, and that will help inflate the lung and get it back. So I had to do that for probably like 3 weeks. And, and the puncture wound, it healed itself pretty much. And
the pieces are still in your lung?
Not in the lung. No, it went past the lung. It shot past the lung. So, it's, I got a piece up here, and one off to the side in the back. Well, when it's really cold, due to the nerve damage, I'll get like stinging, like, like when your hand falls asleep, the little needles. I'll get that here, and then back here where it entered. They had to cut right in between a rib here to stick the tube in to put the hose into the lung to get the blood out of the lung.
Damn.
Yeah, I was living crazy before I got into the music. The music saved my life, pretty much.
Really?
Yeah.
How long were you gangbanging for?
For some years, I started young. I was probably 13 years old.
Whoa.
Gangbanging and I got out of it probably. I didn't necessarily get out, but I changed up what I was doing because you don't never really get out per se unless they jump you out. And I was too into it to be jumped out like that. You know what I mean? That wasn't something I was going to do because, for as negative as it was, it taught me a lot. So my boys that I, ran with, they understood I was trying to do something different. I made a choice to try the music and leave that shit alone because there was no way that you do both. If you do both, you see the results of that, what's happening today with a lot of cats, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they try to ride the line, be professional and be in the music, but they're still kind of in this world over here. And when it one bleeds into the other, it fucks everything up, and so I chose, I was going to do music and just talk about those life experiences and whatnot. And that was probably at 18 that I started taking on the music. And that's where it went,
Like when you said you learned a lot from it, like what did you learn from it?
Well, your street, there's common sense, and then there's common sense on the streets. And then there's being aware and looking out and, not being a doormat. And just it's a whole different type of schooling when you're gangbanging. It's the way you carry yourself, the way you communicate with someone and know whether they're disrespecting you or not, and how you deal with that disrespect, which is, a whole different world in the gangbang shit. But it's a different kind of education. I wouldn't take it back. Some of the things I definitely regretted while I was doing it, for sure. But it made me see things from a different perspective, and why things are the way they are in gangs and stuff like that, from lack of opportunities, for these kids to be doing something, because not everybody's good at sports, but there has to be other opportunities other than that to get kids interested in doing something else. Because falling into the gangs, it's easy. If you don't have a good home life at home, the guys on the street are your second family, and they eventually become your first family. You know what I mean? And if you don't have a father figure at home, one of the guys in the gang, becomes your mentor. He could become like the guy you look up to as like your father figure. There's that. And then, again, there's not enough programs out there to keep people into doing something different than falling into that. And then sometimes, it's a matter of, you growing up in this neighborhood. If you have to walk down that street and they approach you and say, hey, you live in this hood, you got to be with us. If you don't, we're going to make it hard for you. So there's that peer pressure. And then there's the legacy shit. Like, so if my father was a gangster in this gang and he still lives in this neighborhood, pressure's on for me eventually to take up where father left off, and it's all those things. And then some people just are thrill seekers and they choose it. They didn't have nothing, in common with none of that. They just choose it.
For some people too, it's so appealing to have somewhere that you belong.
Right. And that's the thing, because if you don't feel like you belong in your school, or you don't belong with in your family, and that shit can totally take hold, and you end up there. Fortunately, I had good friends that weren't gangbangers, that they had talent for music, which was Muggs and Sen and Sen's brother Mello. They were, I did music as a hobby, before I got into gangs, and they got me back into the music because they recognized something in me and said, hey, we want you to come back. We got these opportunities over here. Come join us.
Did you always have that style?
No, I didn't.
When did you develop that?
Once we started working on our Cypress Hill demos, Muggs came to me and said, hey, man, you got to do something. You got to do something different. Otherwise, you're going to write for Sen. Because Sen had a good voice. His shit was locked in. And my voice, I was rapping in a voice similar to the one I talk in. And although the rhymes were good, it didn't cut through on the style, like on the beats. It just sounded like, some regular shit. So, I didn't want to be someone's writer. I wanted to write for myself. So, there was a guy that we used to listen to coming up. His name was Ram LZ. He was on this record called Wild Style, and he was in the movie. He was this rapper who was very obscure, but he was an artist too, like a graffiti artist, but then also an artist, but he was also a rapper. And what he would do is he'd rap in a regular style, like his talking voice. This is the brother they call the Ram L. He had a deep voice like that. And then he would flip right in the middle, take it uptown to Cypress Hill with the shotgun, blah, 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 like that. And, we were always freaking out on that he had two styles. So I tried throwing my voice in that sort of similar style, and it ended up sticking. I didn't think anybody was going to like it. I thought they were going to be like, get the fuck out of here with that. but they ended up liking it. And I think the first song that came about in that style was the song Real Estate off our first album. It's that was where I tried it the first time. They liked it. So then Kill a Man came next, and I tried that song in that style, and then Hand on the Pump, and it just became a flow after that. And I really did not feel it at first. I was like, fuck, I can't believe they got me rapping in this voice, right? And it took a minute to get used to that, like doing it live. Because, I had a tendency, we as rappers, that don't know, because there's no school for this unless you have somebody who's done it and they teach you, okay, this is what the get down is. And we didn't have that really. It was all hands-on learning. For the first few years, man, I was trying to do the voice, and I'd end up, getting overhyped because the crowd is hype, and I'd start yelling the verses instead of like rapping them like on the record. I'd throw my voice out. My voice would get scratchy. I'd be sounding like Busta Rhymes and shit. You know what I mean? And it took me 5 years to actually harness how to actually do the shows with this voice, and I had to go to this opera singer coach.
Really?
Her name was something Elizabeth Sabine or something like that. She trained a lot of folks, but her shit was like to teach you the operatic way of singing, which is from the diaphragm, tighten the stomach, take little breaths, but those little breaths make your lungs expand, a lot. And it's less projection from your throat and more from the bottom. And she taught me that technique, and I never went hoarse again after that. I people often compliment me on, sounding so close to how the records are. There's once in a while where I might get excited and start saying it louder than it might be, but I'm always sort of right there. And I got to give all props to her, because if she hadn't showed me that technique, I'd probably still be yelling and screaming my shit out, fucking up my voice,
Yeah, that brings up an interesting point. Is this her?
Yeah, she's teaching somebody how to sing heavy metal right here.
Yeah.
No way. Let me hear some. Oh, we can't play this on YouTube. We'll get kicked off of YouTube.
And she was an opera singer at one time.
Wow.
But she went on to teach people the technique.
No kidding, man. That is wild.
See, because if you try to keep your breath and sustain a long note like that from your chest, you won't sustain that note long enough. But if you tighten up,
doing it from your diaphragm,
if you tighten up, almost, it's almost like if you're gonna take a shit.
Instead of from the throat. That makes sense.
Yeah, like it allows you. It allows your lungs to expand while you're breathing from your diaphragm. So that's what she taught a lot of singers. And it's another method is to cheat the word, like pronounce it. Like you're kind of like it's like what these mumble rappers do when they pronounce the word and they kind of mumble it and they sort of cheat it. You know what the word is, but they didn't pronounce it all the way.
Right.
So in other words, if you were gonna sing the line "Come with me," so it sounds a little bit cleaner. You'd say "Come with me," but in the way you would say it is more with a G, but it's so tucked in that you hear "Come with me." And it's just a cheating way of saying it to get the line a little bit cleaner and fucking, in the breath. And she taught me all that shit, and it worked for rap. I didn't know if it would, because, she primarily taught singers. I was probably the first rapper that she taught this technique to, and it stuck, man.
How'd you find her?
One of my friends had heard of her, because in the industry you meet, you become friends with other, your peers and stuff like that. And I knew a couple singers, and they were, noting my problem is to, screaming my verses and coming back with the raspy voice. So they were like, here, why don't you try this person right here? This person taught or gave this technique to so-and-so, and it was another singer I can't remember, but I thought, well, what have I got to lose? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but maybe I learned something from it that I could use somewhere else, right? And she taught me the warm-up. She taught me, the certain words that you can cheat to for certain breath control purposes, because the way you pronounce certain things, you know, sort of add to that, and just the tightening of the diaphragm, man. Like if I hadn't learned that, it would have took me a lot longer to do the shows the way that I can do them now.
So do you warm up before shows?
I don't necessarily need to. Like from the first song on, my voice like gets in. Like the first few bars, it warms up right then and there. And it's not really like singing where I got to sustain notes and stuff like that. So I don't have to do those same kind of warm ups. If I was going to sing some shit, yes, I would definitely have to get my, you know, get the pitch right and the throat warmed up to do those different, you know, melodies or whatever the hell. But fortunately, I don't sing.
Yeah, the whole rap world has always been fascinating to me, like how someone gets in. Like, how do you get started? Are there open mics? Like, what?
Yeah, back in the day, man, someone had to be the guy endorsing you, you know, like saying to, you know, these guys over here, hey, man, listen to these artists, right, or this artist right here, they're the new shit, they're gonna be the one. And then you would have to do a couple showcases and stuff like that, and, you know, win some people over. I mean, we definitely did our share of showcases in the beginning, but we were getting passed on left and right because, you know, people thought, you know, what are they talking about with this cannabis shit? and we didn't sound like a West Coast group, you know, because we were trying to sell our shit to West Coast labels here, and they did not get us. It wasn't until, you know, Muggs had, you know, he'd previously been in a group called 783, and he had worked with these guys called the Rhyme Syndicate, which was Ice-T's guys. So he kind of, you know, he was the guy that people knew. And then Sendog's brother, Mellow Man Ace, eventually would get in the door. And so people started hearing about us through, you know, through more Muggs than Mellow. Mellow didn't really do shit for us, you know, all truth told. But Muggs, you know, they kept hearing about a group that he was forming outside of 783, which came to be Cypress Hill. And so, you know, the guys that worked with him on the 783 records, which was Joe Nicolo of Rough House Records, you know, he wanted to sign whatever Muggs was doing. And, you know, he eventually ended up signing us. And they had a distribution deal with Sony Music. So, you know, we, you know, put out our records through Rough House Columbia or Rough House Sony, something like that. And that's how we got put on, you know, and again, it had to be word of mouth, because if nobody heard of you, you had to have some really fucking dope music for them to even like consider you. If you didn't have like someone backing you, it was tough. You know, you had to have someone come speak on your behalf and say, hey, these guys are the new shit. And fortunately for us, once we put out our snippet tape, like when Sony put out our snippet tape, guys like EPMD, right? And they were one of our favorite groups in the world, man. They were the top 5 for Cypress Hill. There was, you know, Public Enemy, Beastie Boys, EPMD.
Love EPMD.
Yeah, fuck, they were the shit. And those were the guys that took our snippet tape, and they were showing our snippet tape to other rappers, like, hey guys, look at these new fucking guys. Because, you know, Busta Rhyme told me this story. Yo, son, I heard your shit from EPMD way back in the day. They was playing it for Public Enemy, and I just happened to be in the room, and what? And, you know, Ice Cube, when we met him for the first time, you know, and we had our ups and downs with him, but he's one of my homies. He told me, yeah, man, the first time I heard of y'all was through EPMD. We was on tour, was doing the show, and they came in with y'all taping. That's how I heard of y'all. And you know, they were like our first street team, man. Fucking EPMD,
wow.
Our favorite, one of our top 3 favorite groups was out there, like with our snippet tape, telling people, hey, these guys are the new shit.
Are they still together?
They do stuff occasionally, but I think they do more work, you know, individually now. I know Eric Sermon is putting out a record right now. He was just promoting it on some radio show. And I mean, those guys still stay active. I mean, he's a producer, so he's always making music. But as a rapper, you know, they don't put out as much stuff as they used to. But yeah, they're still active.
You know who I miss? Cool G Rap.
Cool G Rap.
I still bust out.
Hey, a lot of guys don't have a style if he doesn't if he had never come out. So many people were influenced by him.
Yeah.
Bad motherfucker.
A lot of people forgot about him.
A lot of people forgot about him. And he was one of the baddest dudes. I mean, a lot of people, would talk about Big Daddy Kane and Rakim.
Sure.
But you couldn't talk about them without talking about Kool G Rap, because he was like one of those guys, like spitting mad verses, man. Like his bar work was incredible.
Yeah, he was incredible. I still listen to that song Cock Blocking.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll throw that on.
And I got to tell you, like if you hear songs that he does today, he is still fucking current. Like he's still got that style that cuts through. Like, some of the older artists, they sort of lose the style that people love, and they don't know how to transition into, what their style would be right now. Like updating whatever that style is. A lot of the older artists had troubles doing that, but my man Kool G Rap, not a fucking
Ill Street
problem.
Blues.
He's still ill.
He was fantastic. Yeah. I always got confused why he didn't get bigger. I didn't get it. I was like, this guy's so good.
I think it was just the wave that came after him. It's like he was such an underground force, and if you're an underground force, you had to make a conscious decision whether, okay, I'm going to go if I go mainstream, I'm going to lose these hardcore fans. I might gain, these mainstream fans, but how long are they going to stay with me as opposed to these core fans that they're...
But with his style, he couldn't just keep them? Because
I thought he could.
A lot of guys kept him, right?
You want to know something? I think it was due to... the record company not wanting to take the chance, because as an artist, you want everybody to hear your shit.
Right.
For us, we didn't play those games. We said, fuck it. If we felt it was the right look for us, we were going to take it, no matter what anybody thought, and, again, you face scrutiny for shit like that. But in the end, if you didn't play yourself, people remember that, and we said, fuck it. We're going to take our music mainstream, even though that was not our intent. We always meant ourselves to be a more underground group, but Insane in the Brain didn't allow that. It propelled us, So we were like, okay, well, we're going to take our underground asses up into this mainstream and show them how we do it. And it kicked the door open for a lot of other underground acts to go into the mainstream. And we proved that if you do it right, and if you stay on your game, and if you keep working and stay present and put out quality music, that you can sustain those mainstream fans that you gain right there, and the core.
Yeah, you guys sustained so well that people covered your shit.
Yeah.
Like Rage.
That
Rage
was
Against
awesome.
the Machine, when they covered Pistol Grip Pump on My Left at all times. Holy shit.
One of my favorite bands.
Zach De La Rocha yelling that.
Yeah, that shit was awesome. I mean,
he took a totally different take on it, but a cover, but it was a cover, but it was his take.
Yeah.
It was badass.
It was one of my favorites, man, and it was an honor to me because, I was really good friends with them to begin with. I saw them come out the gate before they exploded and became Rage Against the Machine. Mm-hmm. And so for them to cover one of our songs, we were like, man, fuck yeah, because they helped us get better. There was a lot of groups that we looked to for influence, even if they were doing different style of music. Like Public Enemy was an influence to us. Rage Against the Machine was an inspiration to us to push the envelope a little bit more on what we were doing. Not necessarily like how they were, because they had their own sound, just like we had our own sound. And so they made us push, and groups like that made us better. So when we heard this guy this band doing a cover, and then they asked us to come play this song with them, which would be their last night as Rage Against the Machine for a long time. This was like their last show right here.
Wow.
We got to do that with them.
That must have been amazing.
And I was wearing a dad hat before dad hats were cool. I will not wear one right now, ever. I don't know what I was thinking, but fuck it.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
No, it was a fun show, man. I went into the mosh pit.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, before that song, before they called us up for that song, for most of their set, I was in the mosh pit, and there was USC a front lineman down there wrecking shop in the mosh pit, bro. I was in there with them. They were protecting me. I was like, "Oh shit, be real, you're up in it." I'm like, "Yep." And we were wrecking shop together. It was awesome.
There's a video of Dana White in a mosh pit once. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. He must have been drunk. He jumped in the mosh pit like years ago.
He's a big dude, though.
He's a big dude. He's jumping around there, moshing around. Yeah, I dated a girl who got KO'd in a mosh pit once.
Oh man, hey, it's crazy, man. I used to go into a lot of different mosh pits.
And there he's in the rage mosh pit.
Yeah,
but most of it is safe. But every now and then you run into a dickhead.
I'll tell you, man. The craziest mosh pits that I saw. Well, the craziest mosh pits I've gone into, there was a Limp Bizkit mosh pit that was crazy, but the craziest was the Rage mosh pit. But the ones that I seen from outside of it, not being in it, that were crazy there was a Soundgarden mosh pit that I seen.
Soundgarden?
Yeah, at Lollapalooza early on. It was when they had Bad Motorfinger out. Oh man, that fucking mosh pit was like a whirlpool of chaos, bro. I was loving it, and I was on mushrooms watching this shit, so it was fucking amazing. And then a Slayer mosh pit, man. Their fucking shit is brutal.
Yeah, that sounds like just the pace of Slayer.
It's crazy. But I got to tell you, since joining Prophets of Rage and us, when we tour Europe and stuff like that, and we do a combination of, Rage Against the Machine songs, Public Enemy and Cypress Hill, along with our own material, the mosh pits are fucking crazy, man. There was one thing that I saw that was not brutal, but it was cool as fuck, and it was in I believe it was Sweden or Switzerland, but there, out of like the 60,000-70,000 people that were out there was like maybe 5,000 concentrated people who sat down on their ass, right? And we're like, the fuck are these people doing? Are they protesting our set? What the fuck is going on, right? And what was crazy is, you're not going to stop playing. You just keep going. So we start on I believe the song was Guerrilla Radio that we were playing at that point. All of a sudden, we see them start doing this.
The rowing?
They were It was like a Viking row. It was a fucking move. It was a move that the crowd was doing. So there's 5,000 people out of the 30,000 that are sitting in, like next to each other, rows. Just fucking of people rowing on beat, dog. It was the fucking.
There
you go.
Fucking Vikings, man. How crazy. That DNA just stuck with those people.
And that was just the little section of it, man. If you were to see from stage, there was it was spotted groups.
And they sat down.
And were rowing.
That's so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen they did a Viking chant once at a soccer game?
Crazy, man.
Oh man, it's wild because the whole fucking arena did it, and you feel it.
You feel that shit.
You're like, whoa!
You got to think, man. When they were going to wars back in the day, they rallied all their guys up just like that.
Look at that.
Yeah, there goes the fucking
people.
row.
They're out of tune though. This fucking boat's gonna go sideways.
Yeah. I don't know where that move comes from, but it looks cool when you see
cool
it.
As fuck. It's got to be an old school Viking thing.
Yeah.
They probably do it when they get drunk.
Yeah. Think about it. They used to conquest motherfuckers, so they're like fucking rowing. Rowing.
Imagine here, see if you can find the Viking one at a soccer game, because it's like, I think it's at a World Cup or something like that. But they're like, yeah. You hear it in the crowd, and he's like, "Oh my god!" Imagine hearing that shit over the
when
water
they're coming to get
coming towards your village. You're like, "Grab the baby, we're gonna live in the woods." Fuck,
yeah.
We gotta get out of here.
And those are big dudes.
Yeah, here it is.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
They're all tuned in together, man. They're all in sync. Look at the hands. That's spooky.
Yeah, imagine
those
that.
Those motherfuckers, if somebody reignites them,
imagine that horde is coming.
They will take over the world again if there's enough of them.
Imagine that horde coming at you, bro.
A fucking crazy line of DNA. A line of people that just were conquerors.
Sturdy motherfuckers.
Sturdy, giant motherfuckers who did mushrooms.
Yeah.
They would blaze up, mushroom their fucking heads into oblivion, and just go slash people.
Go get them. It's crazy, man.
There's another one?
It's another one.
So that's like their thing, the Vikings.
I guess the NFL Vikings sort of adopted this recently. They do it in their football games.
Yeah, but look at that dork with the glasses. Put your fucking hands down, man. Stop. Listen, bro. You ain't a Viking, bro.
They're trying to figure out the beat.
You stop that, sir. Look, he's like, oh, I get it.
He's a spliking.
So when you first start rapping, like you rapping with kids in your neighborhood, are you like aspiring to be a rapper and writing shit down and trying things on your friends? Like, how do you get started?
Well, the way that I started, I was writing, like poetry first. And
really?
Yeah.
Like what kind of poetry?
Just like, like hood stuff, just stuff that rhymed, but like just sort of writing it down. Like it was almost like writing raps, but it just, it's without saying it, right? Because you read it and shit like that, whatever. But I would just write poetry about, everyday shit. You know what I mean? Nothing, I wasn't like doing like I don't know if there's like categories of poetry, but it was just stuff that would happen from day to day, And I had a knack for writing. I realized that. And I always wanted to be a journalist. That's, what
really?
the thing that I thought I was going to be at school, right?
Do you write now?
I was for a while, but I looked at
what kind of stuff?
Just again, everyday stuff, or I'd like randomly pick something to write about. So if it was about the cannabis industry, I'd write something about that. If it was about the music industry, I'd write something about that. Like I every now and then I would. There was back in the early 2000s, there was a magazine called Industry Insider magazine, and occasionally I would write articles for that. I wasn't really that great because, I was so spotty in school that, it needed work, but
Grammar.
they left it raw the way that I would put it out there. And people got my point, and that was cool. But I looked at it in the way that the music that I've done and a lot of the songs serve as a certain form of journalism for me, bringing up certain issues that people don't necessarily hear, like Throw Your Set in the Air is a song on Temple's Boom, and it's a song about how you would get, inducted into a gang, how you get put into a gang, how you fall into it. And some people might think, by hearing it that it was glorifying it and praising it, but it wasn't. It was basically, this is how it is. This is so the signs to look for if your kids are fucking around with the wrong people, and that's, I took it like, okay, maybe I'm not a journalist like I intended to be, but this is my way of it. I can enlighten people with certain things. And, like anything, somebody's going to read something or hear something and maybe misinterpret what you say, but it's all about who's listening and who's reading and who's watching and stuff like that and their interpretation of it. And some get it, some don't. And that's just the nature of it. But like most people get it. And I've come across people that have come to me and come and said, hey man, your songs on Temple of Boom, man, they helped to get me through these times, or these songs raised me. They taught me this and that.
That's awesome.
And to me, that's the impact right there. That's the shit that means more than anything.
Right, because I'm sure you remember songs that got you through, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. There was songs from KRS-One and Public Enemy that, got me through and fired me up, and inspired and stuff like that.
KRS-One's another one people forget about, man. I'll be in my car just going, whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the police.
Yeah,
whoop,
I mean, he taught me how to be a bullhorn. You know what I mean? Like tell the truth, your truth, get the word out and not be fearful of what might happen, because he could have been one of the biggest stars in hip hop. He chose not to be. He chose to be a voice. And sometimes in being that voice, you get objects put in front of you, and certain opportunities don't get put on your table, because
he says some great shit, man. He was talking about getting mad at the president. It's like being mad at the manager at McDonald's. Yeah. For the way the corporation's being run.
Yeah. He is very insightful in the shit that he says, and he is very unafraid to state it and state his opinion.
For you to get like people coming up to you when they first started coming up to you, telling you that your music got them through things, that it means so much to them. When that first started happening, that must have been surreal.
Because as an artist, especially as a young artist, that's not something you think about. Oh,
right.
Well, these songs are gonna. Well, it depends on the artist you are, right?
You guys hit. How old were you? Like 23 or something like that? How old were you when?
I was like, we released in 91, and it really started going for us in 92. So I was 22.
You're a kid.
Yeah,
that's so crazy.
Yep, there goes the baby fro.
Wow. Wow, look at the baby fro.
Yeah.
But I mean, think about that, man. That is so crazy for you to go from the guy who, MTV Raps.
Yeah.
Who remembers that?
I did a bungee jump at this spring break with Tretch from Naughty by Nature.
Was that the one that was in Cancun?
No, that was Daytona Beach right there.
Oh, okay.
When
92.
MTV was still allowed over there.
It was back when MTV had music.
Yeah, when they had music format.
MTV was music videos.
Yeah.
Good luck finding a fucking music video now. I guess they still have.
You got to go to YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow, that's wild. What was it like when it first started popping off and you were 22 years old? Did it feel real?
It was a crazy thing because it's not something that I had ever envisioned happening. I didn't think that the music would blow up like that. We were doing it to obviously try and make a name for ourselves and make music that people like. But fuck, we didn't see that coming at all. Especially with Insane in the Brain. When they told me when Kill a Man started going, it was like surreal because, we didn't think that song would take just because of the chorus itself. Mm-hmm. Fuck what the song is about. We knew that the chorus was, what they were going to hear more than anything. And so, we thought, we're going to have a good underground album. We didn't realize it would blow up. We didn't think they were going to put Kill a Man in the Juice movie.
Yeah.
And that would blow that song up even more so than it was getting. Because we had released Funky Phil Ones first, and it was a double A-side single, Funky Phil One and Kill a Man on the other A-side, which means at that time that DJs had the option of which song they wanted to go, whereas most of the time you had an A-side, B-side, and the A-side is most definitely the one that the record company wants you to push. We gave it a double A-side because we thought maybe the DJs would like Kill a Man more. They went with Funky Phil One, the record company, because they figured it would be easier to market, right? And then the DJ started flipping the record.
Of course.
And we started getting traction behind that. Our record was out like 6 months, had dropped off the chart, and they flipped the record. Our shit slowly starts to go back up the chart. We got back on the chart and started climbing, and we were getting a whole lot of mix show play. And then we started doing a lot of promotional shows, that being one of them, and it started going. And Kill a Man started getting us going, and we toured for probably a year and a half, like a lot of promotional shows, not getting paid, Sony having us out there promoting the record. And by the time our record got back up into the middle of the charts, it was still rising, and they saw that, they were like, we got to get them off the road and making a new record. So that's when we got out there with Black Sunday. And with Black Sunday and Insane coming out, again, that's not a song I thought would blow up. When they chose that for the single, I'm like, well, all right, there's better songs, but fuck it, that's the one. Okay. So it comes out, boom, it explodes, and now we have our Black Sunday charting at #1 coming in, and our first album had come all the way from the bottom to hit #5. So we had two albums in the top 10 of the 200 songs, on the chart, which no one had ever done in hip hop before. We had 1 in 5 slot. Wow. And we definitely didn't think that was going to happen. It was all a surprise, and it went from 1 minute you could go to a mall and be, unassuming and nobody even knows who the fuck you are, and you're getting about your day, to now you go to the mall and the whole fucking mall is swarming on you like fucking, you're like, Paul McCartney or something. It was the craziest shit. They would ask us to leave the malls. Like,
really?
Yeah, like I used to go to this one called the Montebello. It was in Montebello. I can't remember what the name of the mall was, but it was in Montebello, the only one down there at the time. And we knew everybody there, as we're coming up, because that's where we'd go shop. So, you make friends and people in the shop and stuff like that. And when we come back off a tour this time and try to go to that mall, one of our friends fucked up and wore a Cypress Hill jacket.
Oh.
And that's like a fucking billboard when you're standing next to one of us, right? So before you know it, boom, we get swooped and
this is pre-cell phone too.
Yeah, and the mall security comes, hey man, I know it's fucked up, but you guys gotta go. Like, really? It's like, yeah, man, it's a commotion. You guys gotta go. They're telling me. I'm like, they think somebody's gonna fight. I'm like,
wow.
All right. I never went back to that mall after that. I was like, all right, cool. Because, one, I didn't want to cause them problems. Two, it was tough to go somewhere at that time and not get,
swarmed.
Not get swarmed. Yeah, it was quite an experience, man. Like, because you only ever hear about it till it happens. And you might, if you have friends in the industry and it's happening for them, you might see it indirectly, like through their shit. And, we had friends in the business, Kid Frost was one of my friends before we got out there. And
is he still around?
Yeah, he still does stuff, I don't know if he's putting out so much new music these days, but he's still here and there. He's doing some of the cannabis industry stuff too, because he's a big connoisseur. I gotta tell you, my man used to smoke like a train, man. Like him and I would trade joints off left and right. But for a time, I would go hang with him at his gigs. I'd be his bodyguard because I was the one that was not afraid to carry the hammer, meaning the magnum in my waistline. We were cowboys, man. We were always armed at that time. From 89 to probably 97 or 98, we were holding pistols on our hip like cowboys, and he knew that. So he would ask me to go to the gigs, double as his bodyguard. I wasn't his bodyguard, but I was his bodyguard, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'd see the way he handled it, and I'd see the way people crowded around him, and so I learned how to deal with it, watching how he would do it in a negative way or a positive way, because he was sometimes embrace the crowd, sometimes he's like, fuck off me, like a lot of artists are, and that sort of prepared me so that when we got in our lane, I knew how to sort of deal with it, and I was always courteous and cool and respectful, and never the guy that's like, nah man, fuck that, get out of here. Because I see it, and some of my homies were like that, and I hated the feeling that when the fans would walk away, just totally fucking wind out of their sails and shit like that.
Yeah.
Now they don't like this artist ever again, and I saw that, and I never wanted to have anyone walk away with that experience. So I always embraced it, even when it was a pain in the ass, So.
When was your first time ever getting on stage? Do you remember?
First time, there used to be a club called Radiotron here in the 80s, right? And it was the hip-hop club. If you were into hip-hop, any aspect of it, whether it was rapping, breakdancing, popping, graffitiing, all the people went to that spot. And it was hard to get in there, and it was hard to get on the mic, no less. But we had a homie who was like a legendary DJ out here when the AM station was playing hip-hop. His name was Tony G. And he was the leader of the Mixmaster show, the head Mixmaster. And he had a residency at the Radiotron. So we grew up with one of his boys that was his protege. So they invited us over, and myself and Sen got on the mic, and Mello, and I froze the fuck up, I tell you. I froze up. I forgot every rap I ever wrote or ever memorized. I was like, It would be one of the 2 times that I would freeze in my life, and that was the first time I was on stage, and all those people looking at me, waiting, expecting something. I totally blew it, and I told myself, okay, I got to get over the nervousness. And then the other thing we were doing was they wanted rappers to do this PSA for some bullshit, right? And they wanted us to write this rap and put all this certain information in there. And I had it memorized. I had it locked in. The minute they said go, and they were filming it, this was to film it, I kept fucking it up horribly. I didn't even get through it. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Fuck. I was getting mad at myself, doing like, fuck, what's wrong with me?
Were you high?
No, I wasn't.
Maybe that was the problem.
That was probably the problem, because when I'm not high is when shit like this happens, right? So those were the 2 times that I totally fucked it up. And from the last time I said, I'll never do that again. I'm going to be prepared, and I'm going to get through the anxiety or whatever it is. And so those were the first 2 times. But the first time on stage where I actually pulled it off was probably one of our first showcases. It was at this place off of the 10, and it wasn't a showcase. It was actually a competition. You know how they used to do competitions at clubs, like fucking what do they call it? Forgot what they used to call them, but different bands would. It was like a battle of the bands, right? So we went in, and I'm coming off of that horrible fucking deal that had just happened, maybe a month or 2 before. And I totally got over it. And we were performing Real Estate, in this showcase. And we lost, but we made the biggest impression there because the song, we performed it like, the way that it's supposed to be. And then at the end, Sendog jumped on the big judge's table, and he grabbed his balls right in front of the fucking female judge. And then as he jumps off the table, it breaks in half into her lap.
Oh, no.
And everybody loved it. We lost to these dudes who are like new edition wannabes. We call them Tootsie Rolls, but we don't remember the name. They won, but in reality, we won because that's everybody was talking about us at the end. Like how raw that was. And after that show, I realized, this is how I'm supposed to do it. And I seen KRS-One do a show one time where the sound went out. He didn't have a stage. He was on a couple of tables that were put together, and he just got up in front of the whole club, no microphone, no music, and just started rapping his verses, and people were rapping right along with him, not giving a fuck that the sound turned off, but the fact that he just continued to do the show. And that right there taught me a lot about how you control shit on stage.
Yeah, sometimes when things go wrong, it's a great opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We did a show at the Improv last month. Like maybe last month or the month before, the power went out. And they're like, what do you want to do? I said, fuck it. Let's do a show. I could yell.
Yeah.
So everybody just did the show with no microphone. But that was the Improv's a small room. It's only 180 people.
Yeah, I mean, that place was, a small place too. But I mean, it goes to show you, man, like if you got it, you can do it.
Yeah, and it's probably better sometimes because it's unique.
Yeah, because people will remember that. The other way, it probably would have been a great show and people would be talking about it, but they'll remember the fact that you got over that adversity and were able to still deliver. And that's the shit that KRS-One did for me. He showed me through the adversity. He kept doing the show and the people were still with him. And I thought, okay, one day that's going to be me and I'm going to do what the teacher does. Oh. And that had been one of the most important things that I learned, in watching others do shows and stuff like that, and what I would do when I got up there, and I applied all those lessons, man, and it's made me who I am as my part of Cypress Hill. And when I do my solo stuff and when I'm with Prophets of Rage, that got me prepped for everything that I do now in terms of music.
Now, how did you? Well, it's good for you to tell people that you had a real hard time your first time performing.
Oh yeah,
there's probably a lot of people out there that
they'll never
get
say
anxious. Yeah, a lot of people never say that.
No.
They'll lie, But I think that's important. And there's nothing wrong with those feelings, man. It's good.
No.
You got to learn, man. You're a kid.
It's like you liken it to like college stars that are coming into the professional sports now, like basketball players, for instance. You get this number 1 draft pick. He comes to a team and everybody has these high expectations. No one knows that this kid, some people own the space, like LeBron and Kobe and Kevin Garnett, who came straight from high school, and they owned the space the minute they got in it. I mean, Kobe had to work. Yeah. He wasn't the greatest, when he started. He had to work to get to where he was at, and a lot of these guys do. Some of them, again, they come in and they already got it. Like LeBron, he was playing a grown man's game right when he got into the league, thrown into the fire, but he was ready for that. He got better and learned the role and learned who he was as he's gone, but he was one of those rare people that can just jump into it. Some people have to get better at it.
Yeah.
And, it's the same thing with music. Like, you get thrown on that big stage for the first time. If you're not prepped for it, you're going to definitely be nervous. Now, you could either embrace that and it'll be your first show and you could do a good one, or you could do a horrible one. But either way, you can learn from that.
Yeah.
And if you don't learn from it, then the run is short. If you learn from it, you learn how to get better and sustain a longer career.
How did you learn how to get over the anxiety? Like, your first show, the first show suck like that. What was it? What did you learn? Like, did you take classes? Did you read a book? Like,
what we did that helped me was that we rehearsed a lot. Because for me, it was like more remembering the songs. It wasn't like the nerve to go out in front of people, because we came from the break dance and b-boy culture, popping and stuff like that. So much of that is going against someone, battling someone in front of a crowd. And if you can be in front of a crowd doing that, because that's vulnerable. I mean, because in a battle, you could either win or you lose. And if you lose, obviously you could lose in an embarrassing way, or you lose in a close battle. But either way, people are sitting there watching you, judging you, either cheering you or booing you, any one of those. So that helped me be able to get on stage and perform in front of people. For me, it was more about knowing the songs, making sure that I know them through the nervousness, and so for us, we did a lot of rehearsals in the early days, just so that those first shows that we did, that we were locked in and we made an impression. And when we did that and we saw the results of how people were reacting to our show, it gave me more confidence. So, I'd rehearse the songs in my head. When I wasn't around the other guys, I'd be kicking the songs, and I'd be on a treadmill working out, saying the songs, getting them in my head, and just gave me the confidence that I know this fucking shit. I go up there, I'll rock this fucking thing. I'm not going to forget it, because that's always the problem for me. It was never getting in front of people. It was, do I know my shit? And now I know it in such a way that, like, it's second nature. Do I still get those nervous butterflies? Yeah, for sure. Some shows, depending who's watching, who's on the side stage, or how big the crowd is and whatnot. Yeah, I still get some of that. But, I do a quick meditation before I go out there, just in my head real quick. And then our band prayer. And then that's the switch right there, and we go and we're ready. But it took me a while to get to that, because it takes work. It's like anything. If you're an athlete, if you're a boxer, you're only going to get better by boxing all the time, training all the time, not overtraining, but making sure that you're in there putting in the work. And it's the same thing when you're rocking stages. A lot of us sometimes forget to go and put the time in and rehearse, and you could see that when there's a sloppy show, or someone's out of breath, or they're not saying the whole line, or they said the line wrong, or they're changing up fragments of the song to make it easier for their performance, and it doesn't necessarily fit. That's when somebody ain't putting in the work. But for us, we always, that was a part of the draw for Cypress. That's how we won a lot of people over, was the energy of our live show. So, but it took the rehearsals, man. And I would tell any artist coming up right now, man, before you start doing your shows, because you may get a hit like that fast these days, and you may be called to go do that show. Now, if you don't do that show right and you suck, as good as that song is, you're never going to sell tickets when they fucking say, hey, so-and-so's performing at the, this place. Fuck that. I'd rather just listen to the record. He sucks live. So rehearse, man, rehearse. And then after that, hey, take, do what you will. But they fucking help, man, for your confidence on performing the song.
That's a wise thing to tell people, man. Be a professional.
Be a pro.
You can be a professional. Decide you're a professional.
That's
Put
right.
in that fucking work. That work does give you confidence, and it works with fighting. It works with comedy. I'm sure it works with everything.
Yeah, man. You got to be professional,
ready,
professional, and official at the same time. Professional.
What is the meditation that you do?
Just the self-awareness. You know what I mean? Like the circular breathing. And concentrating on that, and in the moment, and then just letting that clear my head, you know what I mean? Just focusing on the breathing. I mean, that's what they tell you pretty much in any meditation, to focus on the breathing, and all these things are going to come through your head. But if you keep on focusing on that, everything sort of goes away, and you're reset. So, I'll do that when I feel maybe some sort of anxiety before going on. If I don't feel that, I don't necessarily do the meditation. We'll just do the prayer, and that's sort of like, sets it all in. But yeah, like some shows, man, I'll have to like go in a room and just sit there and, do the breathing, man. And it helps. People might think, what the fuck is that going to do? It's going to reset your mind and give you some clarity. For me, at least, that's what it did.
What's the biggest crowd you guys ever performed in front of?
I think the biggest was Woodstock 94, I think it was, 93, 94, and that was like 380 some odd thousand people.
That's so crazy. Oh my God.
We've done some big ones.
That's a country.
Yeah.
That's a small European country.
We've done some like, at 100,000 people and 150,000 people.
Is there video of that, Jamie? Oh my God, I gotta see this. That's fucking insane. That is insane.
And I had just cut my hair right there. I was like,
Whew. Oh my God.
See the little guy next to Muggs?
Mm-hmm.
He was our our miniature knockout guy. He knew jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, Shotokan. He trained with my boy Kenji, and he was like our unofficial security.
Oh, that's hilarious, because unassuming, right?
Yeah, he's a little guy. I mean, he even did a few MMA fights.
Look at the size of that fucking crowd. That is insane.
I almost lost my shit right here because, seeing 300 and some odd thousand people jumping around to your shit.
God.
It could give you some equilibrium problems.
I would imagine.
Because it looks like waves crashing into each other.
God.
When it's that big.
I mean, that's got to be one of the biggest concerts ever that anybody's ever performed in front of.
In North America, for sure.
I mean, in all of human history.
Yeah, it was one of the biggest.
How the fuck? I mean, how do you get it more than 380,000 people together?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's probably only happened a few times.
It's crazy. I mean, every band they had on this particular bill was huge at the time. So it was. Yeah, it was pretty crazy trying to just get there. Some of us had to get in through boat. Some of us had to get in through helicopter.
Why? Because there's too many
because
people?
they had started parking on the roads like the old school Woodstock, and they jammed up the highways and stuff like that. They parked, they pretty much shut the shit down. Yeah. And I went in through helicopter, and some of the other guys went in through the boat.
Helicopter. That's when you know you're on top of the world. You're flying into a show in a fucking helicopter.
And
like
I'll tell you,
Segura.
that's when you realize why you can never get away from the cops when they're in the helicopter. They fucking see everything.
Well, that's a funny thing, man, when you watch those dudes that are trying to escape from the cops on the ground, and then you watch the cops in the helicopter, the spotlight just stays on the car the entire time.
Yeah,
Look at that
that's
aerial.
99, but
That's just a piece of it right there. And they had a rotating stage.
Insane. What do you do when you have to take a shit? Like, how long does it take to get from the front row to the back if you have to take a shit?
I'll tell you, we walked around in that shit right there, and it was super muddy and crazy, and people were like butt naked with mud smeared all over their fucking bodies, and it was like people went primal. I swear to God. There they go, right there. They were having mudslide parties.
Oh, man, that looks awesome.
People made babies that day in their tent.
I'm sure they did.
For sure they did. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there right now.
It was fucking crazy, man. I gotta tell you, there was people out there totally hippied out, like straight up butt naked, and and there was a good portion of them. I mean, not in terms of the whole concert. I mean, it was a small percentage, but like you've seen just naked people walking around free out there. It was crazy as fuck. We're like, is this really happening? Shit, man. And then the mud was so thick, man. It was the type where, like, if you walked through it with your shoes and your shoes weren't tight or you weren't wearing boots, it was sucking the shoe right off of your foot. It happened to me a number of times. Hell, in that show, I jumped into the crowd because normally I would jump into the crowd and, just be floating, stage dive style, but I would still be doing the song.
Right.
And on that particular show, they took my shoes and socks. I got back on stage with no shoes and socks. And, about 15 years later, I had one guy with one shoe come to the show and fucking have me sign it.
Oh.
And then the other shoe, some chick had it and had me sign it.
Wow.
Some years later. So I caught up with both shoes.
What about the socks?
Didn't catch up with the socks. Didn't catch up with the socks. But the shoes, caught up with them.
Do they have a limited amount of tickets for Woodstock? I mean, what the fuck do they do when you get that many people?
I think they probably started with some sort of limit.
And then it just became chaos.
And then it became chaos. Like that something they couldn't handle.
Imagine if you lived there and that shit descended upon your town.
Off. I know they were pissed off.
They had a break for fucking 25 years. They had a break.
They sold 164,000 tickets, but the crowd estimated size was 550,000.
Okay, well, shit, I was too short then. I was 200,000 short.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
because the rest rushed the gate. They took the fence and took it down, and they just fucking rolled on in.
I would imagine, yeah.
Because when it's an event that everybody wants to get to, they're going to find a way to it. And
it's outside.
And it's outside.
Yeah, and with those numbers, man, that's just you can't stop that number.
No, and it's a great part of their history because that one was a good one where no one got hurt and there was no crazy shit happening like the next one after that. I mean, they had
what happened to the next one?
Well, shit, they had a bunch of women say that they had gotten raped or molested at the one the following year.
There was fires and shit at the end.
Yeah, and then there was fires. There was a whole bunch of people lost their fucking mind at that one, and they had some great bands too. So, they
don't do that anymore, right? Woodstock's done.
No, they're
doing it this summer.
They're doing it enough. They're doing it.
What are you doing, you fucking idiots? Move, sell your house.
Yeah, do something. Do something. It's crazy though because
this is the fires. Holy shit, man. Yeah, they had bonfires.
Yeah, I believe when Limp Bizkit or Korn went on, it was either Limp Bizkit or Korn, and the fires just fucking started.
People were pissed too because they were charging so much for water, and like they couldn't get to the bathrooms like you were asking. Like they didn't have the facilities set up as well.
They didn't have adequate facilities for what the fuck was popping. I mean,
Jesus Christ! Look at the fucking what it looks like after it's over.
Listen, 1,000 Andy Gumps for 500,000 people is not gonna do it.
Oh, you imagine.
You need like 10,000 handy cops.
Yeah, imagine being the dude who gets in there after 5,000th.
I mean, look at that.
Taking a shit.
They totally took over the fucking highway right there.
That's crazy. They shut down the fucking highway. They just parked their cars.
They made the highway the parking lot.
That is crazy. Look at that.
Yeah.
At least it was kind of orderly. Look how they did
Sort of.
They shut down.
I'll tell you this though, they were cold-blooded, the organizers, because
Holy shit!
Look at the fucking number. That is so crazy.
Oh yeah, it's like a
these guys had some fucking moxie. I'll tell you that. Hey, listen, after every band was done with their set, they expected you to leave right away because the next wave of bands was coming, and they were getting your spot. So, like, if you had a dressing room, once your set was done, you were expected to get the fuck out.
So you had a helicopter out of there.
It was best if you did, because if you didn't take the ride when you were supposed to, you were getting stuck there. They couldn't guarantee that they could give you the ride back to your shit after that, because they had all the other bands to think of, and they might not have room for you when they take the other bands. So it was like,
look at that fucking picture. Oh my god.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Ah, yes, that's what Pac. Look, it looks like Pac-Man.
Oh my god, that is
looks like Pac-Man fucking eating the stage right there.
That's insane. That picture is insane.
Yeah, it was that's the one I'll remember the most. I mean, we've done some huge gigs, but like that one by far, never have we played for another 500,000. What
does it sound like when 500,000 people scream?
Much like that Viking chant.
God.
I mean, we had a small nation right there.
Yeah,
that's
for
crazy.
real, legitimately.
Yeah.
Like when you leave there and then you go do a regular gig afterwards, does it feel weird?
Yeah, well, it depends, but
it takes some adjusting.
It does take some adjusting, especially if the next gig isn't as hype as that. You're like, fuck, we just came from Woodstock. But fortunately, the smaller gigs that we had after that, in terms of playing festivals, they were like, in between 30,000, 70,000, 100,000. And we felt that gave us such an experience that we can handle any fucking stage. So it became easier for us to do festivals after that. And the reaction that we would get at these festivals were smaller versions of what we did there, and it was a great experience, because we had been doing like a couple of European festivals before that. So it sort of prepared us for that. But we didn't, I mean, the fucking numbers, we were definitely not prepared for. We're like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's like, that transcends reality.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we know that that's not our show. They're not all there for us, because it's a mixed bag, right? A bunch of different artists, and you're winning over people, if anything. You're there playing for your base of people that might have come to see you, but you're winning everybody else over if you're doing it right. And for us, it was like a victory, because we saw, 500,000 people up there jumping up and down to all our shit, and they knew the words and they were singing with us, and it was like a big notch under the belt, and a boost for our confidence, knowing that we can get in front of anybody, play with anyone, and get that reaction. I mean, because after that, we were getting booked on metal driven festivals and stuff where we're the only hip hop on it, but it's all straight up metal. I mean, we were playing shows co-headlining under Metallica, right? Metallica, Cypress Hill, Biohazard, Deftones, Fear Factory, and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And we'd be in that mix playing those festivals with those guys and with hip hop music. And the boost that it gave us in the confidence is, it was like, fuck that, we can play with any of these motherfuckers. It doesn't matter who it is. And we went to those metal festivals with our hip hop and got metal reaction. Mosh pits, stage dives, everything. And it felt good to be able to hang up there with a Metallica. I mean, yeah, what they do to a crowd is crazy. But we realized that if we were playing on the same venue, going before them, we can in a festival form, we can fucking hang. with anyone, and that pretty much put us over the top with doing festivals. Like, yeah, we're gonna fucking rule this shit. People are gonna have to up their game when we're on that festival with them. That's the way we took it.
I would imagine you couldn't sleep for days after that show.
The adrenaline was crazy. I got to tell you, the adrenaline was crazy. And
like
then,
when you're in the helicopter leaving, were you like, "What the fuck just happened?"
Yeah, we were tripping out, man. I mean, we were like totally in awe of the response that we got and the the enormity of the fucking crowd, man. I mean, it was fucking huge.
Plus, to be a part of something that's like something that no one there is ever going to forget.
We took it for granted. I got to tell you, when we fucking they want you to do, okay, we'll do Woodstock, whatever. And when we got there, that's when we saw just how fucking crazy it was. I think this is you.
So they steal your shoes?
Yeah, they're gonna start coming. Watch, I have to hold my shirt forward so that I don't get choked out. And there goes the first shoe. They're about to take that first one.
That's so ridiculous. What were you thinking when they were taking your shoe? Like, God damn it.
I was like, oh fuck, there goes one shoe. There goes one white sock. Yeah, there goes the other shoe.
That is so ridiculous. And there is no fucking security that can stop 500,000 people. Save all that shit.
No.
You're at the mercy of the fans.
Somebody's going to grab from my sock pretty soon.
That is so wild. They're just stealing socks. Look at it, steal your pants.
Hey, listen, they tried.
Anybody grab your dick?
No, they tried to grab the weed in my pocket. Because sometimes, when your adrenaline's kicking, you're not really thinking, what's in my pocket and shit like that. But yeah, throughout, I had chicks trying to grab my shit for sure.
Of course.
For sure.
Yeah.
That was a little, crazy for me, but it is what it is. If you're going to stand close, shit like this happens, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, if you're going to stage dive, you got to assume some weird shit is going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, for me, people were mostly respectful, but they would go through my pockets to see if I had weed. And one
they
night,
rabbit-ear your pockets out?
Yeah, I did. I had like an ounce of weed at one show, and I jumped in and I totally forgot I had it in my pocket. Boom. Fucking took my goddamn weed. Like, I hope you enjoyed that.
I bet they did extra.
I know they did.
While they were rolling that joint. This is Pete Real's weed, man.
I know they did.
Straight from California. This is the real shit. Yeah. California weed to this day still holds up.
Yeah.
I mean, you got some good Colorado weed. There's some good weed all over the country, but most weed is just, it's like okay. It's okay other places.
Yeah.
Colorado and California, and then the rest is kind of, Seattle's got real good weed. Seattle actually will blow your fucking mind. They'll blow your mind.
Yeah, I got to say.
Oregon, they'll blow your mind.
People have stepped up. They're still behind California, in terms of how much good weed there is here. Like, I mean, there's so much, from north to south and in Central Cal. There's so many different strains that are fucking good, right? You go to other places and they have a few strains that are good, but that's because they're still, they're still trying to catch up in terms of knowledge and cultivation and stuff like that, and how to make the strains that they have, maximize the flavor and the high and all that stuff. Some have caught up and some are still lagging a little bit behind, but I got to tell you, man, when this last trip I just had to Vancouver, I was just there for 420. And they had some shit that California boys would be like, yo, this is fire right here. They had animal cookies that were really good. Wedding Cake, which is a strain that's, popular here in Cali, via the Jungle Boys and Burner and stuff like that when they were working together on exotics, and they also had this joint called Black Diamond and Trioctane, and all of them, man, I gotta say, all of them burned sweet. They tasted good. They had that white ash that people are looking for now. People think, when they see white ash, it's the purest. News flash. Even if it has a little bit of black ash, it's still, there's still, people flush their roots. You know what I mean? It's just that some of the nutrients, if you're using salts as your nutrients, which most people are these days, your ash comes out white. If you're using nutrients that are already pre-made, like an advanced nutrients and the others, sometimes, you might have a little bit of black ash because some of the components into those nutrients. Doesn't mean it's not clean. It just looks prettier when it's white. But anyway, these guys, their shit, all white ash, and the taste was fucking beautiful, and the high was definitely there. And I gotta say, guys in Vancouver, man, they've stepped it up.
Well, they've been running weed through Vancouver for a long time. Did you ever see that? What was Adam Scorgi's documentary? He had the Culture High, and then before that, there was another one. The documentary that was all about uncovering how much of Vancouver's entire economy is based on marijuana. And if you pulled it out, like when they talk about the union, that's it, the business behind getting high. If you pulled weed out of Vancouver, you took it out of their economy would essentially collapse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's responsible for so many people being wealthy up there. And now it's 100% legal throughout the entire country.
Yeah.
But back then in 2007, I was in that documentary. That was 12 years ago. It was just tolerated.
Yeah.
It was weirdly tolerated where it wasn't legal, but they didn't ever arrest anybody for it. But there was a lot of gangsters, a lot of Hell's Angels were involved. A lot of dudes were selling weed, and they had flashy diamond-covered covered watches and shit. There was a lot of that shit going around like that.
Yeah, it's still sort of, listen, the black market's always going to be, anywhere, especially right now that the taxes are so high to buy cannabis and to grow it and all that stuff. Everything that involves it, it's pretty expensive right now. So
they're encouraging organized crime,
right,
in a certain way. Yeah.
Which my point was, when the corporations come in, that shit comes down, and then the black market has a bigger problem at that point because then prices of cannabis will come down. But it's always going to exist, and we sort of went through the same thing when 215 came about here in California, where it was, cops didn't know what the fuck to do when they caught you with it. They didn't want to do anything, because they knew as well as we were, this shit is eventually going to be legal. They don't want to be wasting their time and putting people in jail for cannabis, because, there's other people that need to be in jail for real crimes. Yeah, I think what's happening in Vancouver now is that now that it's legal, people are still making money, and they're still on top of the game, but it's harder to make the money right now. Well, maybe not for Canada because it's federally legal, but you still got to jump through a number of hoops, in terms of regulation and fines and fees and shit like that to operate, and they're a little bit different than ours. Obviously, ours isn't like federal yet, but from what they were saying is that, like, in a few years, all these companies will be making a whole lot of money. Right now, they're making money, but it's basically about survival, getting past a certain time when all the legislation, all the rules, and all the regulations are finally set in place, and they're not going to change from year to year like they have been. So.
Well, Denver had it real weird for a while where they weren't allowed to use banks.
Yeah. Like us.
Yeah.
Right now here in Cali, we can't use banks.
Yeah. What do they do with it? So can they use credit cards here? They used to be able to.
Yeah, you can use credit cards, but realistically, it's if you're making money from cannabis in terms of if you're a cultivator or you're or whatever, if you're a business entity in the cannabis world. They won't take your money if they know it's coming from the cannabis culture, right? But in the last 2 months, they've Forbes just put out a story about that the federal government is going to start allowing banks to allow banking in the cannabis. It's
not
sector.
Going anywhere. They'd be crazy to not. You're just leaving money on the table.
You're leaving a whole lot of money on the table.
California considers plan to encourage marijuana banking. Yeah.
And that just came out yesterday. Yeah. The Forbes story came out like maybe last week or something. But this is one of the residuals of it is that in places like California that we had problems with banking, that is no longer going to exist. So now if you needed to expand your business or something. You can get a business loan now, or you can actually put your money in the fucking bank, you know? Whereas before, you had to fucking buy some sort of vault or some shit and keep it there. And, you know, obviously that ain't safe because you got pirates out there still to this day trying to figure out, okay, where do they keep their money? Because it's not in the bank.
Well, when I was in Colorado, when it first became legal, and they were having a real hard time, they couldn't use credit cards. It was all cash, and they just had spec ops guys everywhere, bulletproof vests, just covered with guns, just ready to rock at any moment's notice. And they were worried that they were going to get, you know, someone was going to try to take over the store and take all the money.
Yeah, I mean, there's still issues that they got to worry about moving into the future in terms of transportation, right? You know, because throughout the history of doing any sort of business in terms of products going from one side of the nation to the other, you know, trucks get hijacked a lot for electronics, for any sort of goods. So, you know, when you're transporting cannabis from state to state, they're going to have that, you know, figured out too, because there's, you know, people that are going to be trying to jack those trucks and hitting that into the black market.
You know what else is weird? There's people that they post up on people's private land and start these grow centers. They put up a garden in people's land. Like I've a friend who works on a ranch and in like Central California, and they were doing this run. They were checking gates and checking fences for where the cattle are, and they found like a fucking acre of weed. They're like, what the fuck is this? And there was some dudes there. They had campgrounds set up and shit, and it was like they were cartel dudes. They just like set up a spot.
Yeah, find a spot, set up. They don't know who fucking owns it, and if they, you know,
they get dropped off there. Apparently, I think if I remember the story, they got the guys, and the guys basically explained how it worked. That they get dropped off and they get, you know, they leave them with seeds and this and that, and then new guys come in every couple weeks or a couple months and they live there. They just watch the weed until it grows to the point where they can cultivate it.
And then they move on after it's done. Yeah.
But they do that all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
People find them in like state parks and forests and shit.
Yeah.
They go hiking.
That's why it happens mostly up north and in Central Cal. Down here, we don't really, I mean, the way they patrol the state parks is slightly different down here in the South. They'll catch that shit.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's why they did it at the ranch. Yeah, because it was Tejon Ranch, which is like 270,000 acres.
Yeah,
it's a huge place.
Yeah, it's like I believe natives own that that ranch, right?
Yeah, you can find to this day these stones where they ground up acorns, where they have like a little like a pivot, like a hole where they ground it up. I took pictures of it and shit. It's pretty cool. Because you got to think like that's probably 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
Somebody was probably grinding acorns in there 1,000 years ago.
1,000 years ago.
Yeah. I've never been up north to Humboldt. I've never been up to that area.
Oh man, it's unique. There's a lot of nice flavors up there. If you're into glass, a lot of good glass blowers out there.
But that's a long-standing weed culture up there.
Oh yeah,
right?
I mean that shit is generational right there.
Yeah, it was like from the 70s. You heard about Humboldt.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man. You know, as quiet as they've been in this cannabis culture, you know, you would think that that'd be one place that's like celebrated and whatnot. But I mean, they still are coming up with, you know, incredible flavors down there. You know, in terms of, you know, breeding certain strains and creating new strains and doing it in outside, you know, like with as they call sun grown or greenhouse, you know, which is not something we do here in the South. In the South, we do hydro. It's, you know, indoor because we don't have the same type of
moisture and shit up there.
Well, we don't have the space neither. You know, the forestage and the moisture and you know, we have insects that would eat those outdoor crops if they're not in a greenhouse. You know what I mean? Like fruit worms and shit like that. Up there and, you know, up north after dark, you know, it gets cold. So some of those insects can't live in that environment. But in the South, it doesn't get as cold as it does up there. So they can live here. So, you know, if you're going to do a greenhouse here, it's got to be a greenhouse. It can't just be outdoor exposed because they will get fucked with for sure.
Those photos that I've seen of that area, everything's so fucking green. It's crazy. It's like Seattle almost.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. We were just there not too long ago playing a show up in Eureka.
Look at this fucking guy. Look at that guy in the middle of this forest of weed.
Yeah, on a hillside, no less. You know, it's not even on flat ground. He got it going.
Yeah, that looks like he's just in the woods.
Yeah.
Like he just started growing it in the woods.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I bet it has a different feel to it, right? If it's out there with nature. Like, I don't want to get too hippy dippy, but I would think that something that lives in nature with all those other trees and shit's communicating with those trees.
Oh, yeah. I would think so.
And you probably get more of like a natural feel for the weed.
Yeah, they're probably...
Look at that deer.
Damn, look at the weed plant. It's like the fucking bushes. Jesus Christ.
California blacktail right there. Yeah. Columbia blacktail. It's a big deer.
That is a big deer
for that part of the...
Probably eating the weed plants.
Probably. It's probably healthy as fuck. I mean, if he's eating the seeds and shit, you know?
Easy, yeah. Probably fertilizing some of that shit out there.
Yeah. For the longest time, we used to have to get, I'm one of the owners of On It. And when we made hemp protein, we used to have to buy our shit from Canada. It was so stupid. It was like, this is so ridiculous. You have to buy hemp from another country to bring into this country.
Stupid. Well, that's going to change for sure.
Yes. Well, it's got to change. I mean, for everything, for clothing, even building houses. You ever see that hempcrete, that shit they make? It's like a hemp concrete.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's lighter. It's better. It's got better insulation values. It's harder to burn.
This is the type of shit that Jack Herrera was trying to tell people in Emperor Wears No Clothes.
Yeah, he really was.
All this stuff that we use today, hemp can be, the alternative at a cheaper cost.
Including plastic.
Yeah.
Biodegradable plastic. All these people that are worried about plastic bottles and everything, how bad they are for the environment. Hemp bottles, you could make plastic out of hemp and it would be biodegradable.
Yeah.
It sounds like horseshit. There's so many things that you could do with weed that it sounds like you're making things up.
It sounds like you're making it up, but it's actual fact.
Yeah, and dude, over the last couple of months, I've been fucking around pretty heavily with CBD, every day. I've been taking this. This is it's a 1-in-1. It's 10 milligrams of CBD, 10 milligrams of THC. I take this.
That's the perfect fucking
one
balance.
in the morning, one in the afternoon. Woo! All day long. All full of don't give a fuck juice. Just
there you
yay.
Go. We all need that.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's an interesting time.
Yeah.
For someone who was, used to have to hide it before.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it now is that you don't have to hide it. And people that used to, you got people now that you never thought were smokers and, now they're coming out and just being totally free with it. And that's great, man.
What is that, a hemp laptop? What the fuck is that?
A hemp
It
top.
might just be a cover, but yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But how could it be a cover if it's like the USB ports and everything like
that? They have those skin covers. It could just be a look-alike, but it looks like it is.
They should make it.
I don't know. Yeah.
Hemp
they should
is the
make
miracle
that.
plant of our time. It is. I got to agree.
It is. Well, listen, brother, you're a bad motherfucker. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
Forever, for a long time. So it's cool to get in here and we're gonna hotbox this week too.
Yeah, we're gonna to get in that smoke box. People have been asking for you for a long time. I gotta tell you, and I say this, in some of the smoke boxes, because it's the realest shit. Like we just had Mike Tyson in there, and
how weird is it to smoke weed with Mike Tyson?
That was I've smoked with him before, and I've smoked with him on a couple separate occasions. Aside from there, but one of the places that I smoked with him was at that fucking Lyoto Machida Rashad Evans fight.
Oh wow!
When we all left, after the fight, we were sort of getting to our cars, and he ran into me and my partner Kenji, and we were smoking a fat one right there. And he said, "Hey, be real. How you doing? Let me get a hit of that." I was like, all right, fuck yeah, champ, here you go. And we always knew he smoked out. What was crazy about this interview, real quick, that I'll say it, because you asked me this in this interview, what did you do for the anxieties before, let's say you were going to go on stage or do the shit, right? So I asked him that similar question. I said, as artists, as athletes, before we're going to go do our thing in front of a mass amount of people, you get this nervous energy. What did you do to, deal with that? And he said, I used to get hypnotized before fights.
Yeah.
And he was saying how the guys that work with him would instill these certain words like calmness. That would be a reoccurring word that they would do in in hypnotizing him before a fight, so that he would always be calm in the fight and never fight desperate. and always be in control of the situation no matter what happened. And that's how he would, get that nervous energy down and be able to fight with such focus. But the other interesting thing he said was that he never fought. I mean, he was smoking the whole time. He's a big weed head since he was like 10 years old, apparently. But he said that he was smoking, but not necessarily when he was training. They would give him pharmaceuticals when he was training, shit that he wouldn't feel nothing, but he didn't have focus.
What kind of pharmaceuticals?
He said some of it was fentanyl, some Percocet, some...
Fentanyl wasn't even around back then.
Well, it's a form of it, like whatever...
Opiate?
Yeah, it was an opiate that was whatever, the fentanyl of that time, whatever. I can't remember what he called it. But there was 2 or 3 prescription drugs that they would give him. And he said he wouldn't feel nothing. He felt good, like there's no pain, no nothing. But the focus that he had was not there, right? He said that he smoked weed in one fight. Like he smoked weed before one particular fight, and he used the Whizzinator to get through the urine test. Somehow he fucking he says it in the interview. And he said that the fight that he had where he was smoked out was with Andrew Galata.
Wow.
And he said he'd never had so much focus in a fight that it made him realize he should have been smoking weed through every goddamn fight, because he focused on everything he was supposed to. He said he broke his cheek. He broke his cheek here.
He broke his orbital.
He broke his orbital. He broke a rib and part of his back with a body shot.
Jesus Christ.
And he said, that was the fight. That was the one and only fight that he, smoked out beforehand. And Andrew Galata got...
He got flatlined. Andrew Galata left the ring. He was like, fuck this.
Yeah, and Andrew Galata had been through wars.
Oh, yeah, man. Those Riddick Bowe fights were crazy.
The Riddick Bowe fights. I mean, because Riddick Bowe was really good, but he didn't hit like Mike.
No.
I don't think no one hit like Mike. If you look at like some of his early training.
How crazy he looks. He was so crazy back then.
Yeah. If you look at some of Mike's early training and his footwork, it's almost like, martial arts based. Mm-hmm. The way that he attacked and then he shifts on his attack and his footwork.
Customato was a master.
Yeah, it wasn't until he switched up and got rid of Kevin Rooney and, where the destruction starts happening.
I think it was also his life was just too crazy. It was just too crazy. Yeah. No one can manage that from the time when he's 20 to, by the time he retired. I mean, it was probably just a whirlwind of chaos.
And it's crazy because he realizes that, looking back at it, and he says that he doesn't train anymore because it awakens a beast in him.
Yeah, I know. He said that. It made me nervous.
Right? Because he said that to you too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was watching, your interview with him. And one of our guys that was in the back seat asked him, hey, do you ever train? Do you ever, he's like, nah, I don't do that no more.
Yeah, he goes, every now and then I get on the treadmill and I do some running on the treadmill, but that's it.
I would imagine that if he got back in training, he'd get in shape real quick.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it would awaken a beast.
Yeah, they're all like, you can't quit. He's like, fuck you.
Fuck you.
In between rounds, he just got up and left.
Yep. He's like, push that guy away.
He's like, you're not feeling these punches.
He knew something was wrong.
Well, he knew his rib was broke.
Well, his eyeball was broke too.
Yeah.
Look, they try to put the mouthpiece. Hey, put it in. It's Lou Duva.
Yeah, it's Lou Duva.
It's not Lou Duva. No, it's not. Who is that guy? He looked like Lou Duva for a second.
Yeah, you could tell his fucking face is busted right there.
It did look fairly normal, but I'm sure it felt like shit. You know, it doesn't swell up real bad until later.
Listen, if Andrew Galata, who's been in wars, with Riddick Bowe and other fighters, like he was no slouch. If he's telling you, I've had enough of this shit,
let him go.
Let him go. Because he knows.
Yeah. Once they found out that his back was broken and his face was broken, they're probably like, oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. His corner guy was like trying to put his mouthpiece back in.
I mean, it's so stupid. Once a guy doesn't want to fight, you can't make him fight more. I mean, it's like he's already flipped that switch inside of his head.
You know what I told Mike that he didn't realize? This is the last thing because I know we both got to go. But I said, do you know that all the dudes you fought to get to that title, including, the dudes that, that you took titles from, they all stopped fighting after you beat them. None of them wanted to come back and get nothing. They didn't want no part of that heavyweight title after that. He retired so many boxers.
Oh yeah,
he doesn't even realize that.
Bruce Seldon, Tony Tubbs, go down the line.
All of them.
He didn't retire Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes waited until he went to jail, and he's like, "I'm gonna come back."
Yeah, that's the only guy. Bone Crusher Smith.
Yep.
Tyrell Biggs.
Tyrell Biggs. He definitely retired Tyrell Biggs. I mean, they were rivals at one point in time.
Yeah, he fucked Tyrell Biggs up pretty good. Leon Spinks. Yeah, he's
Michael.
Michael. Yeah, he's you know what? I had this title too long.
It's like, that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Enough. Check, please.
And he told me just like, I was like, you know what? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, like, man. He really did. He retired a lot of people.
So we all saw it.
He was a force of nature.
Yeah, and I told him, the other thing I told him real quick too was, like that explanation that he had on his documentary where as he's coming to the ring, he knew he had the fight won.
Yeah.
He could see it in their eyes, and then once he steps into the ring, he's a god. They're done, right? And I told him, I was at that Bruce Seldon fight, and I saw exactly what you explained in Bruce Seldon, because Bruce Seldon was knocking fools out left and right. He was like a really good heavyweight. The minute he got in there with Mike, he fanboyed out, tasted that glove, didn't want no more.
Yeah, it was an experience. It wasn't just that you were fighting a guy who knew how to fight, but you were fighting Mike Tyson. He was this
idol.
He was this thing, this cultural phenomenon. He was thought to be, at that time, everybody was thinking he's the greatest heavyweight of all time, just a destroyer.
Yeah.
No one had an answer for him.
Nah, Seldon, he pretty much, he was a fan. That was his idol, and he totally got rocked.
He was so huge at the time that when Buster Douglas beat him, even though I knew he beat him, I watched the fight afterwards. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, he's gonna get up. It was Bruce Seldon. Look how jacked Bruce Seldon was. I mean,
he's a big boy, man.
A fucking tank.
Yeah. And he was knocking people out. I mean, look, 29 knockouts, and he was fighting good guys.
Oh yeah,
because
he was the WBA heavyweight champion.
Yeah, I mean, I followed his career too. You know what I mean? And he totally fanboyed out on Mike, man. Mike.
Well, look at the stare down. You see him in the stare down. You're looking at that. It's like, oh no, you made a tremendous mistake in getting here tonight.
Tremendous mistake, bro. Look at that. Look how much bigger Seldon is, too. He's a big boy, bro. He wasn't taking none of that shit.
Tyson's footwork and his ability to close the distance and bobbing and weaving. I mean, it was like there was nobody before him like that.
No, man. There'll never be another guy like that.
As a heavyweight, he was just so fast, too.
Because realistically, the guys who trained him, they had a certain technique and nobody uses it.
Well, it was not just that. It was what Mike talked about in the podcast about being hypnotized.
Yeah.
I mean, from the time he was a little boy. And, the fact that he had nothing before that. Everything was, his life was shit. It was all pain and suffering and poverty. And then all of a sudden some guy comes along and rescues him and takes him, teaches him how to box. And then all of a sudden he gets recognition and positive feedback. And he felt like he was something special. Boom.
He fucking hit that canvas hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want it.
We kind of forget sometimes what it was like watching those fights till you go back and watch them now. I mean, there's amazing fighters right now, like Terrence Crawford, who just won Saturday night. Amazing boxers. But what Mike was something. He was something completely different.
Yeah,
he was something that transcended sports. Everybody wanted to see him fight.
If you believed in conspiracy theories, right? He didn't even hit him right there. He just fell on purpose, right? Yeah. If you believe in conspiracy theories, right, you think about it like this, right? Mike was knocking guys out in the first round, and people were paying a whole lot of money for tickets and pay-per-view. When you look at it, it looks like they were trying to slow his roll and put in a guy like Evander Holyfield, who was a brawler. He could box, but he could brawl and take the fight 11 rounds. And, make it a fucking great pay-per-view where Mike would totally ruin the pay-per-view and knock your ass out in a minute. And when you look at it, the way boxing was for such a long time, I wouldn't put it past it that, a lot of the shit that happened to him was manipulated so that it would slow his roll.
What kind of shit? Like, what do you mean?
Well, the people that he had around him. I mean, had
certainly
Don King around him. He took all his people that he trusted away from him, put different trainers in his corner, different people that were influencing him, and it just took him backwards, man. And all the people that actually helped got him there were fucking gone. And those were the guys that was actually giving him guidance as to, how to conduct yourself, be a man, and all that stuff. And he got around the vultures, man. And to me, I think Don King being Don King, he stood more money. He stood a chance to make more money with someone taking out the fight, 11 to 12 rounds as opposed to 1.
Well, he gave Mike the worst deals ever, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing was terrible. He stole money from him. To this day, Mike hates him.
Yeah.
And that's all terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you, brother.
I'll see you in a couple
Appreciate it.
days.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on.
I'm looking forward to it.
Right on.
Bye, everybody.